All right. Welcome in, everyone, to the very first episode of Beyond the Shop. And of course, if you're here, you already know who I am. My name is Overedge Props, local gamer and weeb, and, a guy that's too smooth-brained to do even the most simple of puzzles. But, we persevere. But we're not here to do games today. I'm here to start up a podcast that I've actually been wanting to start up for probably almost a year at this point. I just never really knew how to get my start on it. Smooth Brain Party, exactly. So this show is more or less me bringing some of my really close friends and stuff onto the show that have very unique and interesting careers. And I want them to come on and talk about, basically their journey into getting where they're at now. So I thought, who better to bring on as my first guest than a guy that I've known since high school. He's been one of my best friends for a very long time. I'm wearing his shirt, and he's just an all-around great guy. Always brings high energy to any event he's at, and, being in the wrestling industry, I could honestly say best fit for him. And trust me, if you happen to go to one of the shows, you'll see what I mean. High energy, great voice. I mean, great voice. So, without further ado, let us bring on my first guest, which is the handsome voice himself, Mr. Adnan Kureishy.
Come up, boy.
Yeah.
It's your boy, the handsome voice here. I mean, who's ready, Costa Rica? Costa Rica.
Yes, everyone.
This looks like my living room. Anyway, hello. How you doing, Overedge Props?
How you doing, brother? Thank you so much. For those of you who have been around in chat, he is also known as the One For You Show here on Twitch, and there is a story behind that name, which we will probably get into at some point during the show. But man, thank you so much for being my first guest on here. It means a lot to me, man.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm honored to set the tone for the show, so it can only go up from here. So there you go.
There you go. But yeah, as I said, Adnan and I have known each other since high school. We took French class together. That was a load of fun.
How much French do you remember?
Montrez-moi la gente.
That's about it.
Ma grand-mère est flambée.
Quoi le biblioteco? Steak frites. That's about it.
I do remember a little bit. Like, je m'appelle Don. Comment ça va? Ça va.
I basically can tell a French person I speak a little bit. Je parle français petite. That's about it. That's all I can do.
It's like that Family Guy episode. Like, I only know that sentence and this one explaining it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that. Anyway.
But yes, my boy here is a ring announcer. He's done refereeing. He's been a manager before. He's actually even wrestled in some matches as well. So,
a handful. Just
yes,
a handful.
Yes. And as I said before, his name actually has some meaning because I don't know, is it still active? Is it something that's kind of just like it comes and goes as it pleases? The One For You Show?
It's kind of like, yeah, generally on hiatus. Like, it's kind of now just a channel where I update my reel, which if you want to watch my reel, it's at youtube.com/OneForYouShow, ONE, the number 4, the letter U show. So you can see my 2020 reel if you need to book me for anything that you might need. Ring announcing, commentary, refereeing, bar mitzvahs, birthday parties, clown college seminars. I do it all.
Pizza guy in a porn,
I mean, I've been around a lot of shirtless guys. Let me just say that, okay?
What about stripping? Doughboy asks.
Stripping. Well, I was asked one time. It never came to fruition, but there would have been like a thing that would have happened at a strip club that never came to fruition. This is like, it was like a thing that happened early on, but I don't know, but it never happened. But it's just like, at the time, like I hadn't done a whole lot. So it's like, yeah, I'll take the gig. Sure. But it didn't actually materialize. So I could have done something at a strip club, but it didn't actually happen.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll have to go a little more in depth with that story a little bit later.
There's really not much to it. It's kind of just what I told you right now. There's not a whole lot to that. I will say we're here on the 28th of March. I would just like to just tell everyone to please pour one out for the 3DS and the Wii U eShops. Rest in peace. Support physical games whenever possible. And now I can turn my 3DS off because if you go to the eShop, it'll still boot up, but you can't buy anything, which is almost more depressing, actually. Yeah, this is my first time like booting it up and noticing that.
Like blue balls you into like, yeah, you could buy a game, or can you?
It shows you there's one option left, and it says Nintendo Selects, and so it shows you a bunch of Nintendo titles that you can't actually buy. It's like, what the fuck?
That's awesome.
I know, right? But otherwise, the rest of this podcast will actually not be consistent of talking about me. We'll actually be talking about the greatest movie of all time. That is Street Fighter 1994, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia. So that's actually what the entire podcast will consist of.
Yes, you've all been bamboozled.
100%. So if you haven't watched this, go get this collector's edition Blu-ray right now, and it's amazing cover art. You can't deny it. It's like the best cover art.
I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Quick, change the channel.
So good, so good. Zangief is the MVP of that movie.
Oh fuck,
100%.
Yeah. Oh fuck, yeah.
100%. Okay. Anyway, enough tomfoolery and on to the regular foolery.
So let's bring back carrying around 3DSs and collecting Street Pass. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember Street Pass. That was the dopest thing. Oh, magic mic of announcing. Oh, I just looking at the chat now. Yeah. My 3DS is freaking out right now from like being.
I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
It's like stuck here now, and I'm like, oh no! Please tell me it'll turn off and on, because otherwise, like all the stuff I bought, I don't want to lose that.
Oh no!
I know. I did it for the bit. I did it for you, baby. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
But yeah. So, as I was telling everyone, like, I know, like, you're a ring announcer and stuff like that. You've been in the wrestling industry how long now?
So I started like, I went to a one-day training to kind of see if my body could actually handle being a pro wrestler back in like April, May, June of like 2017, and I started training as a non-wrestler in like September, October, and actually made my debut November 4th of 2017. So 5.5 years at this point. So getting close to 6 in November. So 6 in November.
Damn, dude, time flies.
I know. Trust me. I can't believe it.
We were all
now
so
I'm
young.
I'm becoming a vet now, son.
Yes, you have. Oh,
yes.
There it is. There is the first link. So, by the way, people, I do have a chatbot set up that links you to Adnan's merch store where you can buy one of these sweet shirts. Actually, let me stand up and show you. This is the OG one. Join the Adnan entourage. You can also get the one that he's wearing, the handsome voice, Adnan.
Yeah, this is the Adnan Strong t-shirt, the newest design that I had made, as well as there's one other design that's up there. It's the Kureishy Groans t-shirt, which is basically a shot from an episode of Championship Wrestling where the microphone is being taken away from me. But both, I just want to give a shout. Both these designs that we are both wearing, the Adnan Entourage and the Adnan Strong t-shirts, were actually both designed by Jeremy of midcardpins.com. So if you want to go check out Midcard Pins for some cool pins, I don't know how active they are. It's actually a business that's run by another guy in pro wrestling who's a manager, Halston Body, and his husband. So they used to make a lot of really cool pins, and I don't know if they still are or if they're also on hiatus. But just want to get a shout to Jeremy from Midcard Pins for doing the designs for these shirts.
Hell yeah! And here is what the Kureishy Groans t-shirt looks like.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yes, I am the proud owner of all 3 shirts.
You also have the secret 4th shirt that was only available at like 1 or 2 pro wrestling shows.
I do.
The Peanut Butter Sucks Eggs t-shirt, which is not available on the site, but I have a handful left. If you guys want to like PayPal me and give me your address and shipping, I will ship you a Peanut Butter Sucks Eggs t-shirt.
I am the proud owner of one.
There you go.
But yeah, so kind of getting into, wrestling industry and stuff like that. Like, I'm sure I'm not the only person that probably says this. It's like, I did not know how in the fuck people actually got into the wrestling industry. I just remember being a kid and watching some of the shows and being like, oh, here's this guy that they just probably randomly picked up off the street to wrestle.
Yeah, clearly. They wanted to get this clown, and his name was Doink, and then he's all like, all right, cool, well, let's put him not only in the wrestling ring, but let's put him in that awesome WWF WrestleMania arcade game along with Razor Ramon and The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, and that's how you become a wrestler, and that's how you get into video games, ladies and gentlemen.
I still have that cartridge.
That's so awesome, because that game is so good.
I love that game.
Trying to win the WWF Championship is fucking impossible.
Yes, it is. Oh god, it is.
Oh man.
But I know you said you went to a one-day training, and
Yes.
didn't that eventually like turn into like you actually attending more of like the classes and stuff too?
So what happened is that I trained at Santino Brothers Wrestling. They are based in Bell Gardens, California. They actually have produced a lot of amazing talent and prospects over the years. They've been around for 10 to 15, about 15 years-ish, I want to say at this point. Like Jake Atlas, who was formerly signed to WWE, was there, was a guy who came out of there, as well as fans of AEW will know Brody King. Brody King was somebody who came out of there. I came out of there on the non-wrestling front. Anyone who knows Alyssa Marino, who was briefly also in WWE, she came from there. In fact, another Santino brother just got signed to a contract. Referee Jeremy Marcus, formerly of New Japan Pro Wrestling, he was New Japan Pro Wrestling's of America's senior referee for the last 3 years. He has just left and has now debuted on NXT as of this week, I believe. So
No
he
shit.
just got signed. Yeah, and I'm very happy because Jeremy Marcus was actually very instrumental in my earlier training too. He was one of my instructors, along with Gentleman Jervis, who was my other instructor. So
He's a national treasure.
I went to that one-day tryout thing, which was like, it's kind of like you pay for one day of like wrestling training, sort of, where it's like, see how well you want. It's as opposed to just signing up for a full course and spending all this money. You pay this much, you come in for one day, we teach you some of the basics, you get to cut a promo, and you can kind of see like, oh, is this for you? And I was doing some of the stuff, so you learn how to roll, you learn how to fall, cut the promo at the end, and they really blow you up too, because they run you through all the a bunch of physical drills, a lot of squats, a lot of push-ups, a lot of sit-ups, all that stuff. I was dying, as I am not in the greatest of shape at the time, and not today either. I'm not at my best shape, but that's besides the point. But I was dying physically, but I felt like as far as rolls and stuff like that, I remember thinking like I was able to do okay with like rolls and running the ropes and stuff like that, but like it was funny like seeing guys who were in better shape than me not catch it as easily. So it's just kind of those things that like, even though if you're physically in shape, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're able to wrestle. But went through all that, cut the promo at the end, and it was a really good experience, and I'm glad I did it. But it was realizing that I don't know if I can do this physically, but I'm glad I did it, because now when I watch wrestling, I'll gain an appreciation for what it's like to watch people like fall and run ropes and all this other stuff. So it helped give me a lot of perspective. And then later that year, Santino Brothers set up their very first, what they now call the Advocates class, which was basically a manager, referee, like all non-wrestling roles, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I decided, I can do. Let me try doing that, and then I signed up for that class, and the rest is history, kind of from there, honestly.
Yeah, I know some of your personalities that you made, like Handsome Hassan, Stephen Kai.
Oh yeah, that was my first gimmick. It's just like come up with a character. It was Handsome Hassan Kim, which I basically
love those.
Handsome Hassan Kim was just basically a ripoff of a Grand Theft Auto character. Did you play not Ballad of Gay? No, yeah, Ballad of Gay Tony.
Yes, I did.
4? So you remember how the main character is like like Middle Eastern friend is like rich and a loser.
Oh, yeah.
Just trying to, yeah, that was him. I was basically, that was the gimmick. That was basically the gimmick, was that guy who was like, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I got all this money, but nobody likes him, and he just wants to be liked. That was the gimmick.
I'll pay you to like me. You can't pay me enough.
Right. So yeah, there was that aspect of it. Then I had Coach Melee, which was like a character that I still want to do other places. I don't know why I'm coughing all of a sudden. It was like, you know, when you have that PE teacher that's out of shape and you're like, why is this guy a PE teacher? That was that gimmick. That was that gimmick.
Pretty much how I felt about every teacher at our high school.
And then Kai the Supreme was the gimmick I ended up doing for Santino Brothers for the Up All Night shows, was kind of like based on like anime God Complex villain. I started a faction of primarily Asian wrestlers and stuff, so we called ourselves the Dominasians. So that was like a whole like story that unfortunately we never really got to take it as far as it could go, because then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So like we were in the middle of like doing stuff like, you know, in the story that we had going, but we never really truly reached a conclusion, and we never got to have like the match that we were building toward with that story, which is unfortunate. But it was a really cool thing to do, and Kodo and I still team up occasionally when we're asked. It's not something that happens very often, but Kodo and I are still very, you know, we talk and all that. So, and I'm you know, proud of him, and I hope that people notice him and people get a chance to see him at California Love this upcoming Thursday at the Collective for WrestleMania week. But we'll talk about that later, I'm sure.
Yes, we will. So honestly, like, I know you've always been like a big wrestling fan. I mean, you were the one that kind of like, between you and Doughboy, honestly, like you two were like really big advocates for kind of getting me dragged back into it. Cause like, you know, I grew up with like, you know, in like the Hogan era, the Goldberg era, the Stone Cold era, Undertaker era.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that was just like watching it here and there with like my grandpa and stuff like that. But I remember like, you know, when you and I got to be closer friends, you're like, dude, I got to show you this thing called TNA. And that was one of the greatest fucking matches I've ever watched.
Mid 2000s TNA was so awesome. That was like prime candidacy for me, as far as like, especially expanding my horizons as a wrestling fan, because like, you know, I watched wrestling in the 90s around like the end of Shawn Michaels' time, like right before he had to leave due to back injury. So during the Austin Rock stuff, and then also WCW back in the day. So I was watching it around that time, and then the thing that really helped kind of branch me out into realizing that wrestling exists outside of like those companies was like finding out about TNA in mid 2000s. And then that also kind of led me to figuring out what New Japan Pro Wrestling was. And then, you know, led to Ring of Honor and then Independence and all that. So it kind of snowballed like more so in my like late teens, like early 20s is where I really like got super hardcore about it.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess one thing is like, what really sparked you from going from like just being a fan of wrestling into like trying to get your foot in the door into the wrestling industry itself? Like, what was the big spark?
I don't know what the spark was. I think it's more so that just, I don't know if I saw an ad on like on Facebook or social media or something that Santino Brothers was doing the one-day tryout, where I was just thinking about it, and I knew about Santino Brothers. I was aware of it because I think I may have researched and looked at wrestling schools like before, and I that was the only one that I knew about, like I knew the name of, and that was the first time they had done like a one-day tryout. That was actually a completely new thing that they didn't do. Like, yeah, that was like literally the first one, and now they do them occasionally, because I'm assuming it's kind of a success to kind of just get people to come in, and then sometimes you get new students out of it. In fact, in the class that in the one day tryout that I was in that one day tryout with two other guys who would end up, you know, going through wrestling training and actually, you know, becoming wrestlers out of it. One of which is Cameron Gates, who people on the SoCal independent scene know, as well as the DKC, who they would become a tag team known as the Bomb Squad, but then the DKC amidst the pandemic, he would get signed to New Japan and be a young lion as part of the LA dojo. So DKC has wrestled in Japan and all over the country because now he's part of New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that's another Santino Brothers success story. So that's why I always talk about with me and DKC. It's always a trip because me and him started on the same day, basically, and it's like the weirdest thing to see, like, or not the weirdest thing, it's cool to see the fact that I saw this guy who literally, when DKC came in for that one day trout, he was wearing a mask, and like everyone's just like, this is a super mark, he's not going to do anything.
Oh,
and, like,
no.
You know, it's kind of like one of those things that you think like, this kid's got nothing, right? But then no, he went through it, and now he's, you know, a member of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and in fact he's now one of the coaches for the starting of the New Japan Academy here in the LA dojo in Carson. So it's funny just how things like that work around, because I remember when we started doing like the New Japan Strong stuff, and it was me and DKC at one point. I was talking, like, it's weird, right, how we started like the same day, and now we're doing New Japan stuff together. It's so cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's I guess it's like one of those things, like, don't judge a book by its cover.
Can I ask for you to take me off video for just a second? I'm gonna go grab a Ricola real quick.
Yeah,
I
man.
don't know why I'm coughing. Yeah, so go ahead and vamp. I'll be right back. I'll give you a thumbs up when I'm back.
Gotcha. So yeah, because like back in the day, I would say, like, you know, I would watch wrestling occasionally with like my grandpa, you know, because that was just like the thing to do, you know, on occasion. And then, yeah, like I said, when I hit high school and Adnan and I got to be really good friends, you know, I knew he was a big wrestling fan, and he was asking me if I liked wrestling. And I was like, I used to, not so much anymore. And then he's like, well, I got to show you this one match. And it was Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, and AJ Styles. And it was an amazing match, and it kind of like sparked my interest to get back into it. So I always thank him for that. All right, so he is back. Welcome back, my friend.
I apologize.
No,
I did not, because I wasn't coughing all day, and of course, as soon on your first episode, I show up and I'm just coughing up a lung for no reason. I'm like, why? Anyway, where are we going? What's next?
So I mean, you did kind of answer one of my other questions. It was like, what did you do to research it? Why Santino? But so like you were saying, like, they kind of take you through, like, for the one day trials, they kind of take you through everything, you know, like how to take a bump, all that different kind of stuff. When you're doing the more like supportive roles, like the manager, you know, the commentating, refereeing and stuff, like what kind of, like, how do they really like train you for that? Or they just like throw you in and be like, do what you got to do, like do what you think is right, and then we'll like give you some criticism for it?
It's
constructive criticism.
You know, they go you get constructive criticism because you're doing a lot of the way we did it, because we were kind of the prototype, we were the blueprint, you know, it wasn't something that was done. And so we did a lot of kind of like mock shows and you know, and practice matches and stuff like that. So basically, some of the wrestlers who were part of, you know, Santino Brothers would be asked, like, hey, could you help out the non-wrestling students, you know, have like have a practice match. So occasionally some of the wrestlers either like like in the advanced class, like close to finishing their training, or kind of wrestlers who were just around that wanted to help, that you know, were just wanting to help the school, or just like relatively fresh wrestlers would have training matches. And I think a lot of those training matches still exist online somewhere, like on the Santino Brothers YouTube. It's just you had to like really kind of dig and find them. But you can find, that's how we would practice doing commentary and ring announcing and refereeing and all those, and becoming a manager. And so you learn, that's where we learn those support roles. And then, yeah, you do, after we finish whatever training scenario, we get the, you know, you talk to the coaches, you know, you talk to your instructors, anybody who's watching that knows, you know, who's been around, will offer their criticism and their advice on, like, okay, why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? Here's why you would do this. What could you do better? All that jazz. Like, it's kind of like one of those situations. I remember, I'm not trying to throw Marty under the bus here. I hope this doesn't sound. Marty's a good friend of mine. He was my commentary partner for a couple of years when we started, and I love him to death. And he's starting to get back out there, so I'm really happy and proud of Marty. But I remember a mistake that Marty had made when he was refereeing one time, where you know, so if you're like, if you're somebody's doing something illegal, if you're choking a guy or on the ropes or something, you count 1, 2, 3, 4. At 5, that's supposed to be a disqualification. and then Marty got to 5 and they didn't break, and he didn't disqualify him, and he was just like one of those situations like, oh no, what do I do? And in theory, you should disqualify him, but you should kind of like also break from that to kind of like more force it out, because you don't want to go from the disqualification type thing. So there's just like a thing that I remember. Now Marty's gonna watch this and be like, I hate you, and never talk to me again.
He's gonna be like, bring me on the show. I want to talk some shit on Adnan. I got some stories.
Marty is low-key one of the funniest people on the planet, and if you should follow him on Twitter. I think it's Marty. I forgot. It's something. I was thinking of his Instagram handle, which is like Marty Quinstagram, but like he's got a really funny like he's just low-key, just like one of the funniest people I know.
Well, definitely send me his Twitter and stuff, because I'll definitely drop him a follow.
Okay, yeah, for sure, I will.
So like, what were like some of your like major takeaways from all the trainings you did that like eventually kind of shaped like what direction you wanted to go in?
How important the support roles in wrestling really are is that, you know, what people don't really realize, that like when it comes to doing a production, which is the same with the stage, because I came from theater, you know, I was a theater kid growing up, as you know, but you know, no one else, you know, than the public doesn't necessarily know, but I was a theater kid. And so I have sort of the same takeaways that I would from theater, just on a different level of having the perspective on how important all the other people around the wrestlers are to making wrestling feel larger than life, and, you know, making it feel like what you're conveying, you know, how important it is. Especially like a referee does not get enough credit for being the referee.
Oh,
because,
hell no.
you know, especially because a referee is doing a lot of things. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to expose the business too much, but a referee like does a lot of, I mean, if you want to look, other people will expose a lot more, but a referee will do a lot of things that that you don't know and don't notice. And if you don't notice, then he's doing a great job, because essentially he or she is in charge of kind of keeping a match on track in a lot of different ways that you might not realize. And that's a big thing. Your commentary is very important for telling the story that you want to convey, you know.
Oh yeah.
And making sure your character is being conveyed that you want it conveyed. You know, your ring announcer can make you feel like, you know, an important figure, you know. Your lighting and your production, your people who take your pictures, like it's all stuff there that makes, you know, wrestling feel better and feel bigger. And the thing is too, is that like I was at a show once. I'm not gonna out the promotion, but I was there and I was just like, okay. And I realized I never knew what a bad ring announcer was until I saw a bad ring announcer.
Oh,
right. And it was one of those things that like, and this was, I was in wrestling at this point. Now just looking on at spots and like seeing what's going on in spots and like where I could get booked and all that. And I just remember thinking like, oh yeah, because if you're not thinking about it, they're probably doing a good job. But if you're thinking about it, they're probably not doing a good job.
Ooh, that's not good. Because I mean, essentially for me, like you were saying, you know, the ref kind of like, you know, guides, kind of keeps everything on track. They're like the drummer for a band, in my opinion.
That's a really good analogy, because that's 100% true. They are the drummer of a match.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, the ring announcer, like you said, it's like they make, even if you're not like, you know, the top of the roster, you know, you're not like, you know, your Goldberg's back in the day, your Steve Austins, your Rocks and stuff. They can make you feel like that, even if you're just 100%. Like a guy like starting out. It's like, because like I've seen you announce many times, and it's just like every person that comes out, it's like, man, these guys are like these guys are a fucking star, and you're like, yeah, they're kind of like brand new to the, you know, to the show, you know, this is like one of their first shows, and it's like you could have fooled me with how you announced them.
Mm-hmm.
And then how they perform too, and I guarantee too, it's like the way you announce, you know, the talent coming out too. It's like, you know, they could be nervous, they could be like, you know, all fired up, and then they get that one ring announcer that makes them feel like someone, and that just ups the game exponentially. And that could go from being like it's a show to like that was like a match to remember kind of deal.
Yeah, for sure. You want to make guys feel important, you know, because you want to make the show feel important. And that's the most important thing, is that like, if the show feels important, then the crowd knows how important it is. It keeps the crowd from like, they want to come back and they want to see what happens next. So anything that gets the crowd invested, will make them, pay their money for a ticket. And not only just that, more importantly, pay their money for another ticket. That's when you like try and hook fans, that's how you try and expand, a fan base and make new fans and all that,
Oh, definitely. But, yeah. So I guess like, because I remember when you were doing like when you got like through like all the trainings and stuff like that. I remember you were doing a lot of like refereeing for like a couple of different promotions. Like I remember I saw you like doing Santino's. My apologies, man. I don't remember what the promotion was called.
You might have saw me at Pro Wrestling refereeing
that one
before I was doing a lot of weird stuff. Yeah.
But
that was my foot in, was doing it there. Just like, and then the other one that I did the last time I refereed, which was actually a pretty notable show, is when Defy, which is a very big notable indie that mostly runs up in like Washington, Oregon, and all that. They came down for California for a show, and I actually ended up getting a spot on that show as a referee, where I refereed Daniel Garcia versus Christopher Daniels, two huge names in wrestling.
Holy shit!
Yeah, exactly. So that was the most recent time I refereed, and that was like a really, like, even though it's not something I do very often, that was actually like probably a career highlight, was refereeing on that Defy show. It was me and Chad Rico, who's a great ref out of Level Up down in San Diego, who's also been killing it on the scene. We were the ref team that night, and I was just glad that I got that opportunity to be a part of Defy that day. Defy hasn't come down since. I was actually supposed to referee for Defy again when they were supposed to come back down to California, but then that show ended up just getting canceled for some reason.
Aww.
But it's not, whatever. Yeah, so it's not like the worst thing in the world, but like it was cool being able to referee. I refereed 3 matches. That one that was Christopher Daniels and Daniel Garcia, and then Viva Vin and Sandra Moon, which was great, and then also the Yuya Uemura from New Japan Pro Wrestling's LA Dojo, as well as Kevin Black, another hot up and coming independent star. And then I also got to do the on that night, I got to be that run-in referee after a referee gets taken out, and I'm coming from the back, another referee slides it. And that was actually kind of neat because I never got to do that before. But refereeing, I think it's because one of the things that was stressed in the course that I took was it was kind of like be a wrestling Swiss Army knife. So I can do basically most of the non-wrestling role. I don't know. Roles.
The more the support, you can do all the support roles.
Yeah, exactly. It's whatever it's need. It's like if you're playing Overwatch and like you need somebody to be a healer, for the love of God. Yeah, exactly. Or something like that. That's just a gaming reference there. But like it's important because like you want to fit in a spot that might open up, even if it's not necessarily the spot that you want, because the spot that what I tell people, and I like to teach people too when people ask me, it's like you want to be able to do a lot of stuff, because the spot that you don't want can eventually lead to the spot that you do want, and that's actually proven true for me on a couple of occasions, which has been great.
Okay. But yeah, so I remember when we were just starting, you were saying that Santino Bros has an event coming up, or a show coming up?
Yeah. So this coming Thursday, it's actually, we are recording this on Tuesday. I believe it is the 28th. So Thursday, the 30th here of March. It is WrestleMania week. WrestleMania 39 is literally this weekend at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, which means that everyone is running shows around the greater Southern California area. One of the big events that always happens every year is GCW runs their Collective, a group of shows that take place from Thursday to Sunday. And Santino Brothers Wrestling is going to be the very first show of this year's GCW Collective.
Damn.
As we are going to, yes, indeed. So we are going to be this Thursday, March 30th at 11 a.m. We are the very first show of the Collective at the Ukrainian Cultural Center in Los Angeles, California. Santino Brothers presents California Love. What better way to spend your time if you're coming down to Southern California than with some California love? Brought to you by Santino Brothers Wrestling. We have a huge stacked card lined up. We have the Santino Brothers heavyweight title is going to be on the line as our champion Che Cabrera, accompanied by his manager Damian Arsenic, is going to be facing facing a man who hasn't been at Santino Brothers in quite a long time, but who's made tons of waves. He is now a former X Division champion. He's been making appearances for AEW as well as a little bit at New Japan. That is Willie Mack.
Big Willie Mack.
Big Willie Mack, Lucha Underground fans know too. So Willie Mack versus Che Cabrera for the Santino Brothers Heavyweight Championship, and the Santino Brothers Inner City Championship is on the line. Huge triple threat match. Our champion, Delilah Doom, will be defending against not one but two challengers, as she will take on Johnny Robbie, as well as the returning Heather Monroe in a triple threat match. So
there's
Heather
a name
Monroe's
I haven't
coming
heard
back
in a while.
She moved out of California, has been killing it where she's been, but she's coming back to Cali for this big match to try and win the Inner City Championship. We've also got Matt Vandegrift coming back from Las Vegas, the Santino Brothers original, been killing it out there in that scene, as he's going to be taking on member of TMDK, New Japan Strong, and one of your personal favorites, Don. I'm talking about the bad dude Tito and Matt Vandegrift are going to be going one-on-one. So those are three of the matches that are going on, plus so much more. So check us out. You can find the whole card at SantinoBrothers.net. Follow us at Santino Bros or at Santino_Bros on Instagram. But if you want to get tickets, you can go SantinoBrothers.net. Get your tickets to be with us at California Love this Thursday morning. And if you can't get tickets or aren't going to be in the California area, we will be streaming along with the whole rest of the collective exclusively on Fight Plus. So anybody who uses Fight TV to watch your pro wrestling, we are part of GCW's collective. It is available as part of the Fight Plus program. So you can sign up there and you can watch it live, even if you can't be there live.
There you go. And I got the flyer up right above your thing.
It is.
And So that was essentially your Santino Bros journey, leg of your journey, right? So
yeah, I
know from there that was when you really got your mojo going, and that was with Championship Wrestling.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Championship Wrestling has been super invaluable to my experience in pro wrestling. I'm about to celebrate about 5 years at this point with them, and that's 5 years on television at this point, which is a crazy thing to think about, too.
Bunny says there's a lot of bromance going on.
That's what happens when you put people together like that. I also see Adnan is so hot in the chat. Thank you, Doughboy.
So hot.
I'm so hot. It was 80 degrees today, and I was sweating. And so I know randomly, and it's gonna rain again tomorrow. This is sick making weather, everybody. So be very careful.
It gonna rain.
It's raining sideways.
But
anyway,
so how did you actually get your foot in the door of Championship?
What you always want to do in wrestling, you want to show up to places, you want to network, try and, get your foot in the door in that aspect. So you show up and you help, especially when you're new and you're paying your dues, you're young, you're brand new, all that jazz. You haven't made a name for yourself anywhere. I'd only been doing Santino Brothers shows at that point. I showed up at Championship Wrestling, and then known as Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, as people have known, because Championship Wrestling from Hollywood has been on the air for quite a long time, over a decade at this point, and a lot of stars have come out of there that people know, like Claudio Castagnoli, as well as like Timothy Thatcher, Finn Balor, Carl Anderson. Like, there's a lot of guys who wrestled, at with Dave Marquez and the United Wrestling Network through Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. It used to be NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, LA Knight, who people might remember as Eli Drake. Like tons and tons of names. I could spend all day listing a lot of people who came out of there, but it's kind of like, so I got my start. I showed up at one of the tapings for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood at the time, just trying to get out there, helping ring up, seeing what spots needed to be filled, and not expecting anything. This is the first time I went down there. I went down there with a lot of the students from Santino Brothers who I was training with. And, we put the ring up together, and then we were just asked to fill in spots in the crowd. So we were basically like the front row. There's a full set of episodes where me and like Halston Body and a couple other people are the front row of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood for a set of like 2 or 3 episodes. And so we're just like out there like, all right, cool. Hell yeah, let's go. Let's, be the really excited people in the crowd to make sure that the rest of the crowd is into it. Because, that's important, is you want a crowd to be into it, especially if you're filming television.
Yeah, definitely.
And and yeah, that's what championship wrestling is. It's television. You know, it was on KDOC for the longest time before KDOC has now ceased to be. But we are still on the air in a lot of different spots in the country through syndication, as well as on Fight TV and on YouTube. So it can be watched a lot of places. So it was going up there, you know, out and always making sure that one of the things you learn too is always bring your gear, because you never know when you're going to get booked. Mm-hmm. So I'd go up and I had ref stuff with me, and I'd have a suit with me just in case. And so that first time it was just filling in the crowd, took the ring down, all that. And then I went back. I did not go back immediately. I think I missed like the next one because I was probably working on that day. And I remember the one after I went to, I remember I was coming back from a Ring of Honor pay-per-view with our friend Edward, actually. Like we were just coming. It was one of those things where we went up for the pay-per-view and then left like the same night or the next one. I don't remember, but it was like one of those things like I'm just back from Ring of Honor, so I'm really tired. And I'm like, okay, so I know Championship's running today, and Halston Body's saying I should come out, and I'm really tired, but I'm like, okay, I'll come out, you know, see what I can do. Because it was kind of, you know, it was a bit of a drive for that, too. It wasn't close. It's a lot closer to me now than it used to be. So we drive up there. I show up. I'm shaking hands because you want to shake hands with everybody. Mm-hmm. And I talk to Nick Bonanno, So Nick Bonanno, another person very instrumental in my early career, referee, fantastic referee, also now works for WWE. If you didn't know, because
really,
he's a writer for NXT now. He writes for NXT, and from what I understand is that he's shown up on NXT TV usually as like a doctor, hilariously enough.
Oh my god!
He hasn't refereed since his last time with us at Championship Wrestling, but yeah, he now works in creative for WWE NXT.
That's
so shout
awesome.
Out to Yep. So shout out to Nick Bonanno. Have a good luck with NXT Stand and Deliver this Saturday in Los Angeles. I'm sure it'll be a great show, especially with you doing a lot of the creative stuff over there. But Nick Bonanno, he was, you know, senior ref over there at Championship as well as part of the creative there. And he just asked me, and I'd worked with Nick. I'd met Nick one other time and worked with him one other time at a Santino Brothers show. He came down and he refed with us. The Nick's a great guy, and he's just like, hey, yeah, so we meet again. Like, hi, Adnan. Oh, Nick, yeah. What are you trying to do in wrestling? Oh, I'm trying, you know, I'm a commentator, I'm a ring announcer, referee, just kind of like, you know, whatever is needed as far as non-wrestling roles I can fulfill. It's like, oh, okay. Well, bring your suit sometime. Maybe we can take a look at you because we might be looking for a ring announcer. And I was like, what? And I'm like, I have my suit now. He's like, oh, really? Okay, well, we have a couple of dark matches today. We'll give you the dark matches. This is my second time helping out at Championship Wrestling in Hollywood. This is my second time helping out and, like, just, you know, shaking hands and talking to the right people. And, you know, I think Nick realized, because, like I don't think he's a wrestler. Maybe he's looking for something. So, and then he's just like, okay, so we'll take a look at you. So essentially it was my audition, I guess, sort of. Well, an audition. So I did 2 matches on before that Championship Wrestling from Hollywood taping. Mm-hmm. I remember one of them was D-Man Dan Parker versus Greg Sharp. Greg Sharp, who is great, killing it over in Las Vegas, and on New Japan Strong, actually, as well, from time to time. So Greg Sharp, another great talent. I remember Sandra Moon being in the other dark, and I don't remember who she wrestled. But I did those 2 matches, you know, and then I just sat ringside the whole show, and I'm just like, okay, cool, I'm here. Even though I wasn't on the episode, like, even though stuff I did wasn't airing, it was just I was there for those set of episodes, just kind of next to it, and I just decided I'll grab the gear, and so I did that. So then I talked to Yuma. Johnny Yuma, or just Yuma, and then Captain Yuma for the fans of the NWA, part of the Rock Nest Monsters, because he was at the time head of creative also for Championship. And then he's like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll take a look, and then we'll see if we need you. And it's like, okay. So I show up at the next taping. I have everything, you know, as far as my suit and all that jazz ready, and they don't need me. So I was like, okay. But I still put the suit on and sat and asked if I could just be ringside and grab gears. Like, okay, yeah, sure. So I did that. And then it's the taping after that where I was given an opportunity with a set of episodes that were mine. And I didn't know this because no one had actually somehow told me, which is even funnier, because I show up and I'm putting the ring together and Nick comes up to me and he goes, hey, Adnan, come on, we're going to a production meeting. Oh, okay. So I'm just
this is happening.
I'm just going to this production meeting, and I'm standing there, and I'm taking in this production meeting for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah. They're going through all this stuff. I'm like, all right, cool. Then we get the production meeting. I just go up to Nick. Nick? Yeah, what's up, Adnan? Who's ring announcing today? It's you. Oh, no one told me. Oh, did you bring your suit? Yes, I did. Okay, great. And here's the funny thing about that. I forget if I've told you the story in private, but on that day, I forgot my shoes.
Yes, you did tell me
so
that.
You know this story. And I was traveling with Halston Body, and I was freaking out. I did not have my dress shoes with me. And I noticed that Halston, his bag just happened to be open for whatever reason in his trunk. And I saw that he had a pair of black shoes. They weren't dress shoes, but they were pure black, like sneakers or something like that, where it looked, like black work shoes or something like that.
Yeah.
And I ran over to Halston. I was all like, Halston, what size shoe do you wear? He's like 10.5. Why? Like, can I borrow your shoes? Because he wears the same shoe size as me somehow, luckily. And so I'm wearing these black. So if you watch the first sets of episodes that I do, I'm not wearing dress shoes because I forgot them.
But it worked.
It worked. I did get feedback from Nick's like, yeah, just make sure you get dress shoes next time. And I'm just like, yes, sir, totally. Because not that it's that I had them, I just forgot them on this one day. But I remember, being very nervous. I'm doing TV for the first time, and I'm doing an in-ring title match for the main event of that, which was Willie Mack versus Bad Dude Tito for at the time, the Hollywood Heritage title, now the United Heritage title. And I'm just like, okay, here we go. And it was just like, and then they liked me enough, and they said, hey, you mind, like, do you want to keep being, like, we'd like to have you as our ring announcer if you'd like to do it. Like, yeah, sure. And so the rest is history from there, and I started from there, and I learned a lot from being on television, and how television production works, especially for wrestling. And then, like, being around like other places and seeing what's different and what's not so different. There's a lot of stuff at Championship Wrestling's level. It's great for kind of knowing how wrestling really works on like places like an AEW or a WWE, and like where it's basically the same, just not maybe a little smaller, but it's basically the same thing. And it's very vital in my learning. And like even just like a couple months after I got hired on as the ring announcer, I'm doing the NWA World's Championship, and I'm like, how is it I'm not even a year into wrestling and I'm doing an NWA title match? And the NWA title, from my own memory, used to be the title that TNA used, and I'm like, this is the craziest thing. And so meeting Nick Aldis and like doing that the first NWA title match I did was a triple threat match: Nick Aldis, Josephus, and Crimson for the NWA World's title. I'm the ring announcer for that, and I've only been on TV for like a month or two at that point. I've only been wrestling not even a year at that point, and so it was crazy. But like Championship Wrestling has led, and the United Wrestling Network has led to so many opportunities, as well as it's prepared me for so many opportunities. Because Championship Wrestling, we ended up co-promoting stuff with Impact in 2019, so that's when I got to work Impact, which you attended one of those Impact shows, I remember.
Yes, I
did. And all that, and then when we did pay-per-view stuff, when we were doing Primetime Live in the pandemic, and it's a place, other than Santino Brothers being the place that made me who I am, I consider the United Wrestling Network and Championship Wrestling my home, basically, as far as wrestling is concerned.
And Cody Rhodes, damn fate. Well, yeah. Funny said, like, damn, fate willed it. It's like right place, right time, and like you said, knowing like what hands to shake. Even though I know you shake everyone's hands. Anyone that's involved with the show, you're just like, great working with you. Great working with you. Good job out there. I know that's just the kind of dude you are.
Yeah, it's you have to make sure that everybody knows, and then you're making yourself know. Just even if it's just like a handshake or whatnot, or just show face. Oh
yeah, that's all. So it's like from like Santino Bros, like learning like what you did there, and then going to Championship. Like, was there anything that you had to like unlearn from that, and kind of like learn something new to kind of like adapt to being on Championship Wrestling?
It's kind of like not necessarily unlearning, but learning that I have various different presentations, because not all promotions work the same. Mm-hmm. And television versus independent wrestling is very different too, the way you present things.
Okay.
You have a specific way of kind of presenting things for TV versus presenting things for a live like independent show. Like television, they don't like when fans go one fall. after you say the following contest or one fall. So basically I step over that because that's not what they want for TV. But for an independent show, I revel in it because it's what fans want in that particular case, where like television, you have to kind of keep it going to a degree. So it's more like for presentation wise for TV, I am not as much of a character because it's not my place to be unless I'm told to be. But that is. It's like I can't react to like the people saying something really that much. Okay. But like, stuff like that, because we have a certain amount of time, we have to hit it, for this way, for whatnot, and the stories that we're telling in that case, where like independent show in between, I'm like, you guys are enjoying yourselves. Hell yeah, blah, blah, blah. All this, like do this weird, like, this kind of like rowdiness where television isn't like, I'm not pumping people up, but basically when the camera is on, I have to kind of be in a certain mode. Yeah, there's a certain mode. I've realized that there was television Adnan, there's independent wrestling Adnan, there's New Japan Adnan too, because that was also a different style of presentation. So it's just basically not every promotion needs the same things out of you. It's more so, can you provide what a promotion is asking of you in the style that they want from you? So that's what I learned through there, and then when I would work for other spots, and what works the same, what works different. So it wasn't really unlearning. It's more so what works here, what doesn't work here, what can I do, and how do I figure out what works at what place, basically.
Gotcha. And like I said, you and I have known each other for fucking years, and I know there's very few things that really legitimately make you nervous. But how nervous were you during your debut?
Oh, that's okay. My debut was November 4, 2017. That was also one of those things not planned because I just went to go help out. Santino Brothers was doing a private event for a biker club.
Oh God!
Yeah, the Seven Skulls Biker Club, and they booked us to do a wrestling thing, and so I showed up and helped out, and as far as the setup and the teardown and all that, and then Joey Chaos, who owns Santino Brothers Wrestling, so Maestro, as I call him. So Chaos comes up to me and he goes, Adnan, you're ring announcing tonight. Huh? Excuse me? That's how it happened. That's literally how it happened. I wasn't ready for that. I brought manager stuff because I wasn't even thinking about that. Was like ring announcing wasn't as much on my radar as much as like being a character or being a manager was.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do commentary. And so I was like, and then he ended up also putting me on commentary that night, which is the first time Marty and I got to work as a team. And so we're doing it for a live crowd of doing commentary. And it's also my first time ring announcing. And I'm just like, okay. And I wasn't prepared. So I had jeans. I didn't even have a suit. I had jeans.
Shit.
Because I wasn't prepared with a suit. So I had jeans and I had a dress shirt for the character I had. I didn't even have a suit jacket. The suit jacket I'm wearing is actually Marty's in that. So it's a lot of times where I'm wearing other people's clothes on my big debuts is what I'm learning. So there was that, and it was just like, okay, here we go. And I'm like, so I remember doing it. I'm trying to get people pumped up, and I get all the information, and I'm just like, here we go. And I do it, and it went pretty all right. I remember one of the referees who I only ever saw that night, but he's all like, wait, this is your first time doing it? You did really good. I was like, oh, thanks. And it was like the craziest thing thinking about, like, okay, cool, I just did something on a show. And it's more nerve-wracking that it's not like I'm in front of a crowd of wrestling fans. I'm in front of a crowd of bikers.
Oh yeah.
Which is different too, because I've also realized that like you'll do certain things that aren't necessarily. I've done like shows like for the biker clubs or like at festivals or something like that, where the people who end up watching are not necessarily wrestling fans. So that's also a different kind of atmosphere to kind of figure out what works and what doesn't. Also.
Oh yeah, because you definitely got to like read the crowd and figure out what gets them going, what they like, what they don't like, all that kind of stuff too.
Exactly. So that was like the craziest thing that I did it. And I was like super nervous and I'm like, oh God. Oh, and I remember sitting down in the car and like, all right, I did it. And I sat there for a while. And then here's a funny part of the story. So I sat in the car. I didn't leave right away. At the time I used to Uber. So I still had the Uber thing on the back of my car. And I wasn't on the clock. I didn't say I was Ubering in that moment. And some woman opened the back seat of my car and sat in the car and said, okay, I'm going to... And I'm terrified because I'm like, who the fuck is coming into my car? And then she's like, are you not my Uber? I'm like, no. I'm not on the clock. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she left. And I was just terrified that someone was going to murder me right after I had one of the most important days of my life, because someone literally just opened the backseat of my car.
You're like,
and sat down.
I did it. Car opens up. This is how it ends.
Yeah. Literally like one of the biggest moments of my life and the end of my life at the same time. Like, oh God. So that's a funny anecdote from my debut.
Thank you for the stretch, Doughboy. If you would like to take a stretch too, Doughboy has just redeemed a stretch, so
I need that. Drop stretches, drop hydrates. Actually, I'm out of water. Don't drop hydrates.
Oh man. So I guess, I mean, if no one has any pertinent questions as of right now, we'll move right along, but I'll what
lock your kids and hide your wife.
Yeah.
That's there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Nope, there's a hydrate from
hydrate.
Bunny.
I got some drops.
She said too bad.
Yeah, I got some drops.
And does Championship Wrestling have any events coming up?
So yeah, in fact, so we will not be running WrestleMania week, but we will be running the week after. So our new home over the last year, we've now been 1 year at the Irvine Improv in Irvine, California, at the Irvine Spectrum. So our next set of TV tapings for Championship Wrestling, presented by Car Shield and Quick Quack Car Wash, who have been 100% masters at as sponsors for us. They've been very good to us and helping our brand and product grow. So our next taping is going to be April the 11th. That's a Tuesday. I think it's April the 11th. What's the date on that? I think next Tuesday. Yeah, that's the 11th. Yeah, I was right. So April the 11th, Championship Wrestling will be back at the Irvine Improv for another big TV taping presented by Car Shield and Quick Quack Car Wash. Our main event is set. The United World Championship will be on the line as our United World Champion, Danny Limelight, will be defending against a man he knows very well as a member of Team Filthy, as he'll be defending against the very first ever New Japan Strong Openweight Champion, former UFC fighter, Filthy Tom Lawler. He will be in attendance, a man who I know very well and has terrified me very many times in the past. So Filthy Tom Lawler versus Danny Limelight, a match I'm very much looking forward to because of the dynamic of the fact that technically they are both teammates of Team Filthy. But this time around, now it's Danny defending his title against a man who he knows very well in New Japan as a partner. So we'll see how that goes. The other match I know for sure we have confirmed is the United Heritage Championship will be on the line, as BHK Kevin Martinson will be defending against R3 Cassius from Arizona, formerly from Championship Wrestling from Arizona. So Charles R3 Cassius will be challenging for the United Heritage Championship. We know that the new United World Tag Team Champions, TMDK, Bad Dude Tito, and Shane Haste will be in the building. We know I know Invictus Cash, the winner of the 2023 Red Carpet Rumble, will be in the building and facing off with his old Embassy teammate. Embassy is no more. Jordan Clearwater, who people may know from us, from New Japan Strong, from the NWA, was a former now NWA World Television Champion. So Jordan Clearwater versus Invictus Cash. That is also taking place April the 11th, Irvine Improv. Tickets are available at improv.com. So head over to improv.com right now. You can get yourself a general seat. You can also get yourself a booth for you and a bunch of people that includes food. It is a comedy club after all. It's a really great little venue.
It is.
Donovan, I think you came the first time we ever did it before it became our home. We did it in 2019. I know you had attended, and honestly, it's become a really cool, interesting place to do wrestling, and I've enjoyed our time there very much. So head on down to the Irvine Improv, April 11th. I know United Television Champion Jack Banning is also going to be in action. I'm going to be nervous because Jack Banning makes me nervous. Check old episodes of him talking to me. It's weird. Anyway, so April 11th, Irvine Improv, Championship Wrestling.
I do remember that show. That was a really fun show, and that was also the moment I realized how good of a talent Tyler Bateman is. Because I remember he took a bump, and I legitimately thought he was hurt.
Bateman is amazing. He's such a great talent. He's also a guy who helped guide me a bit in parts of my career, and I always appreciate and I love that guy too. So yeah, Bateman, I believe, might be in action at that one. Bateman will for sure be in action Thursday at California Love. He'll be taking on Ranchi Rico, so it's another reason for you to attend that show for sure.
Yes.
So there you go.
But also on the flip side of that show, I remember seeing someone that I remember from my childhood being on the roster.
Okay, who are we talking?
David Arquette.
Oh man. So yeah, so you had come to a Championship Wrestling from Hollywood taping, that the first one we did in Irvine Improv back in 2019 when we did Coastline Clash down there. And one of the big heavily promoted matches we had was David Arquette versus pretty professional producer Peter Avalon. That was a match that happened. So that was actually David Arquette's second match with us. So that was also a crazy thing working with David Arquette. So David Arquette was one of the big reasons that we had those shows. We were also the promotion that hosted his return to wrestling, and there's actually a whole documentary on David Arquette's return to wrestling. It is called You Cannot Kill David Arquette. It is a fascinating documentary. I think it's on Hulu. I remember that we had streamed it off Vudu, where you can buy a rental of it on Vudu. Mm-hmm. I think you might be able to buy a rental of it on Amazon streaming as well. So wherever you can find it, I would highly recommend watching You Cannot Kill David Arquette. You might see a guy in there who you know from this particular stream on that particular movie as well. So it follows,
It's me.
It's Donovan. It's totally Donovan. So basically it's, you know, David Arquette, who, for people who don't know, he actually won the WCW World Championship in like 2000. And that's kind of part of why WCW is not around anymore. It was like a weird publicity stunt and it did not go right. And David Arquette was definitely somebody who was mocked a lot by wrestling fans since then. And it sucks because he's a guy who absolutely loved pro wrestling and it was not his idea at all. It was just like a thing that was done to promote Ready to Rumble when that movie was coming out. And so he always wanted to have a redemption to kind of like both himself and to wrestling fans about like, you know, I really want to actually try doing this and see if I can. And so if you watch that documentary, it's about his journey and his struggle to actually trying to legitimately kind of become a professional wrestler. And so his first match since that time was with us at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. So not at the Irvine Improv show, but a few months before he had a match with RJ City. And that match was fantastic. And I remember, I'm not going to lie, I remember sitting there and like, okay, we're doing this David Arquette RJ City match. And I'm sure it's just for publicity. And I don't know if it's going to be any good, but man, David Arquette learned how to wrestle and he put on a great match with RJ City. And then as you saw, he had a very good match with Peter Avalon.
Oh, that was an amazing match.
It was great.
I was very surprised.
So David Arquette, like, is somebody who really like put all his, you know, his chips on the table and went full force with actually doing a lot of pro wrestling for a couple of years. So he would just do the odd independent match from then. And so if you watch that documentary, you can see some of those matches. You can see me ring announce David Arquette for his very first match back. So that's why if you watch that, you'll see me. But it's just a fascinating, you know, story and tale. And I was really surprised to see my name in the credits that he actually got it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then he started following me on social media too. And it's just like, oh, okay.
Hell yeah.
And David's a really nice guy too, because I worked with him one other time too at Wrestling Pro Wrestling. We worked kind of directly together during a segment where he was Bob Ross parody, and he was
oh my god.
It was Rob Boss is what we called him.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the funniest thing about that segment is that he's painting, because he's painting a picture, and he actually does paint in the Bob Ross style. That's what he like learned how to do. And I remember I turned the painting around to the commentators, and the commentators like, "Oh wow, that's legitimately good." It was like hilarious.
I know.
He's a really nice dude and a really sweet guy, and I'm very glad that he's kind of been having a career of resurgence also on the screen lately. But his wrestling work over that time period, I think, was very notable, and I think it just proved that, like, yeah, he wasn't doing it as a joke. He really did have a love and respect for pro wrestling, and still does. And I wish that guy all the best in anything he does, whether or not in pro wrestling, and obviously in his acting career with the Scream movies coming back into vogue. So,
oh hell yeah, because I know. I know a lot of people probably like remember from like Scream and stuff like that. Honestly, like the one role that I remember him from was from his leading role in Eight-Legged Freaks, because as a kid I loved spiders and I actually wanted to, become an entomologist so I can learn, about arachnids and stuff. And I remember watching that movie and I fucking loved it. I thought he killed it in that. It was funny, it had a lot of action, it was actually like kind of informative if you knew what to look for and everything. But honestly, like sitting where I was during that show and then seeing David Arquette walk out, it was like the inner child in me was just like, oh my god.
Because you were near the ring and only like 3 rows back.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly. Yeah,
I was
so
like, I was directly to the side of it. It's like if I just like kind of turned my head a little bit, there was the ramp.
You were hard cam side. So
Yeah.
if you go back to those episodes, you can see you and Ryan and a couple others. I think you can even show Doughboy in the chat there. Jovan's in there too. So
yeah, I think so. That was a phenomenal show. I was really, really, happy that I went to that show.
I'm glad you were there too. And I'm glad that the Irvine Improv has been the home of championship wrestling for the last year, because it's been great.
So, I know you were touching on this a little bit before, but I know both you and I really, really love, like Japanese stuff. And
yes,
you getting into, what is it, New Japan was like a big thing for you. And I remember even like when you told me, I was like, no fucking way, it finally happened. You finally got in.
Right.
So what has that been like, man? Because I know that's like for you and for me, like living vicariously through you, it's like that's the big leagues in my opinion. Just because I know you and I like have a huge amount of respect for Japanese talents and everything, and just Japanese culture in general and stuff. So it's like how did you actually get your foot in the door with New Japan? Because I don't even think I actually know that story about how you actually got into there.
So before I answer that, I will answer Doughboy's question in the chat. I have Top Flight winning the Reach for the Sky ladder match at Supercard of Honor, because I feel like with the Briscoe brothers not being able to be the tag team champions because of the unfortunate death of Jay Briscoe, I think it's only appropriate for a set of brothers to win the Ring of Honor tag team titles. And there are 2 sets of brothers in that ladder match. There's the Lucha Brothers and there's Top Flight. And I think for Ring of Honor, I think Top Flight is going to win those tag team titles, because I think that's a better showcase for what Ring of Honor is about as far as showcasing kind of newer talent. So I'm going to go with Top Flight. So as far as your question, and how I got into New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that happened during what I like to call, the first thing I ended up doing was during what I like to call the August of Adnan. So that was August of 2019. Because that is when I did the Impact shows at the beginning of the month, and I ended that month by helping out at the Super J Cup that month, which is a New Japan Pro Wrestling tournament they try to get junior heavyweights from a bunch of different promotions and have a tournament. So they were doing the Super J Cup in the US for the first time, and it was basically, they did stops. It was Seattle, then it was San Francisco, then it was Long Beach. And I knew people who worked with New Japan and did stuff with the dojo and all that. And I was asking, just in case you needed any help, I'm available. All that, just to see if, I'm not trying to get, I highly doubt I would get booked, but it was more like, if I can help out and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll let you know. And then a couple days before that, it's like, oh yeah, we don't need help. I was like, okay, cool. This is the Friday. But I really still wanted to go to the show because it was the last show that Jushin Thunder Liger wrestled in the United States.
Okay.
Correct. So I bought a ticket with Jovan, actually. Me and Jovan bought tickets to go to that Super J Cup, on the Friday. And then I get an email at 4 a.m. the night of the day of the show. So I'm asleep. And it's all like, hey, are you still available? We could use some help. And I'm like, oh, and I wake up and it's 10 or 11 a.m. And I'm like, oh man,
where are my shoes? Where are my pants? Fuck it, I'm going pantsless.
And then I call Jovan and I'm all like, yo, you need to take my ticket and give it. We need to find someone else for my ticket. And then we quickly scramble. And then Jovan gives the ticket to his wife. So he takes his wife to the show. And then I'm still at the show, but now I show up at Walter Pyramid in Long Beach. And I'm trying to get in. And thankfully I ran into a sound guy that I knew who was coming out of the building, and he let me in because he knew I was probably there to help. Like, all right, cool. So I show up. The ring was already up because I got this message way late, but then I ended up helping. I don't remember what exactly I did on the show. I think I was just kind of helping run stuff around. I don't think I did merch that day, but I was definitely helping with like a bunch of assorted stuff. And then I was randomly asked in that moment to give an English announcement. And I'm like, what? And so Jovan could tell you, I think, that I made an announcement at, just randomly. It was all like, please keep out of the thing, enjoy New Japan Pro Wrestling or something like that. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Please keep your dicks out of the punch bowl and enjoy the wrestling.
yeah, stuff like that. But then, ended up helping out, and then the show ends, and then we take down the ring, all that jazz. So it's like, okay, so that was my foot in the door, was essentially being last minute help for the 2019 Super J Cup. Then I got asked to do merch a couple times at a couple other shows during that year, and that also led to me being in a couple of Chris Jericho promos.
Yes,
for a match Chris Jericho had with Hiroshi Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom in 2020. Which was a crazy thing where I'm a fake Tanahashi that gets punched by Chris Jericho. And then also I am like a Chris Jericho drone that's standing behind him with like white face paint on and makeup and laughing. And I don't remember if it was you who had said it, but somebody had said when they saw that, they're like, even if you didn't tell me you were in this, I would know you were in it because your laugh is the most distinctive laugh out of anybody.
I don't know if that was me. I just remember like when you told me, you're like, dude, I'm doing a video shoot. And I was like, okay, cool. You're like, with Chris Jericho. I was like, excuse me?
I don't remember if I never remember if I told you. I don't remember if I kept it super secret. I probably did. I don't remember. Anyway, it was just that happened, and then they've aired, and it was like the craziest thing being, like, hey guys, I showed up on New Japan. And that was like technically my first appearance on New Japan was with Chris Jericho of all people.
Yeah.
It's just like, but then COVID hits, right? So COVID hits, everything shuts down. So New Japan's not running, Santino Brothers, nobody's running. Everybody's not doing anything. And then we start like close set stuff that was starting to go like be talked about. And so there was this I get a text message because I had given my number to the guy who runs the merch at New Japan. And for whatever he, if you wanted to hit me up to help him out again and stuff like that. And then he passed my number along to the person who was kind of like the production person. And then she texts me, hi, Adnan, this is so-and-so from New Japan. We were wondering if you'd be able to ring announce for us this Sunday or something like that. Someday. This was going to be Lions Break Collision. And I just remember waking up and I'm like, what?
You're like,
yeah,
hold on. Let me pinch myself really quick. Let me slap myself a couple times.
Yeah, right. So Saturday or Sunday or whatever it was. But I remember I was still working a regular job at the time. And I remember telling my boss, though, was always, my bosses at that job were very understanding of what I was doing, even if I had to kind of get out like kind of on short notice. So they made it work, but it is one of those things that like, even if I get fired, it doesn't matter. This is literally the opportunity I was asking for. Like, so it's
Hell
like,
yeah.
It's one of those things that like, it's basically like, hey, I'm not coming to work on this day. There's literally nothing you can tell me that's going to make me come to work on that day. Like,
try me, fire me, see what my answer is.
Yeah, right. So then that ended up being Lions Break Collision. So Lions Break Collision, as well as a lot of the old back catalog of New Japan Strong, you can watch actually for free on the New Japan Pro Wrestling Global YouTube channel. And so that was that. I was given a shot to do New Japan. So this was maybe June we shot this. So COVID's still, a thing. It's very much a thing. So I had to quickly get a COVID test to kind of like, to before I did the thing and all that. And so we were submitting COVID tests, to do this and all this other jazz, but I had to do it like on such short notice. And then I got it. And then like, cause at the time we still didn't know anything about COVID, but like, so I show up and I do the thing. And it was like, I remember there being, so we shot 4 episodes of Lions Break Collision, 3 that were a half hour long, and then the last one that was an hour long. And that's when I, DKC wrestled on there, as well as Russ Taylor and Jeff Cobb was on them. Rocky Romero was on them. Filthy Tom Lawler was on them. Rocky Romero. Shout out to Rock. He's also been very helpful during my time at New Japan when I was part of Strong and whatnot. So appreciate Rocky as well as, so yeah, that's what I met. And then like, yeah, that's when DKC got his shot. And then that's when like Alex Coughlin and Clark Connors, they were still young lions. Carl Fredericks had just graduated from being a young lion. Carl Fredericks, who's now in WWE as Eddie Thorpe. Congratulations, Carl. So yeah, that was how that started. So then New Japan, so Lions Break Collision was like a proof of concept for New Japan of America to see, okay, maybe we can do something while we don't have crowds. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like the start of like closed set taping of wrestling that was starting to happen. WWE was running with no people, AEW was running with no people, and it was just that weird time of watching wrestling where there's no people, you know.
Yeah, which is weird.
It's weird
because no crowd to like play off of or anything like that. It's just like stark silence.
It's crazy. It's interesting because like when that had to happen, I remember with Championship Wrestling, we had to get really creative, and that was a cool thing about that, is that even though there was no crowd, you miss a crowd, but there were certain things that we could do with no crowd that was different, and I liked the kind of creative like
freedom.
I don't know, restriction. Yeah, freedom / restriction. Like thinking outside the box of how do we make the show more interesting since we don't have the crowd to kind of keep people engaged. So I like that aspect of the no crowd wrestling, but obviously I don't want no crowd wrestling like anybody else. But yeah, so we were doing New Japan Strong week to week from there, and then that parlayed and it went on for a while until we did our first show with a crowd since the pandemic. That was Resurgence at the Los Angeles Coliseum. So we did it in front of the Coliseum, what they call the Torch, and that drew 2,200 people. That was the first show since the pandemic, and it was out there, and I was part of that and got to ring announce Jay White and David Finlay and Hiroshi Tanahashi and Lance Archer for, you know, a live New Japan show in 2021 for a couple of their major championships, which was great, and that was cool. And then we did like another Strong taping, our first Strong taping with people the day after that. Then you know, I wasn't a part of Strong at that point going forward, mostly just because, you know, so that they just decided, like, you know, not to have me in that role, so it's fine. I did get to come back for Strong for a set of episodes in February of 2022, the Rivals Tour, and that was good to kind of go back to that. But then I did get the chance to be the host for a lot of their meet and greets that they were doing, the online meet and greets. So I got to host with a lot of really cool talent. The first one I did was with Will Ospreay. So I did it with Will Ospreay. I did it with Filthy Tom Lawler. I did it with Fred Rosser. We got to do the Millions of Dollars dance together. Kushida, Minoru Suzuki, Mascara Dorada. Like, doing all that stuff was actually pretty cool. I did it with the whole United Empire other than Ospreay too. Like, I did it with basically with TJP and Jeff Cobb and Aaron Henare and the Great Okan. That one was really cool. So like the stuff I got to do, even though I'm not as, you know, in the fold as I was, like, who knows, maybe one day again. That's the hope, that maybe I could be in the fold again. But, you know, the stuff that I got to do, I appreciate that I got the opportunity to do it, because I never thought I would get to do it at all, let alone in the time that I did it.
Oh yeah.
So it's just, you know, it's a bump in the road that I'm not as present anymore, but that just means that, like, you know, right now it's not meant to be, but later on, who knows if it could lead back there or somewhere even bigger, you know what I mean? So it's just like, that's just not what's in the cards right now, and who knows what the cards have for me. So yeah. I'm very curious as to, you know, my takeaway from that is that where it can lead. And honestly, like, I think the stuff we've been doing with United Wrestling Network and the growth that Championship Wrestling has had over the last year especially has been very exciting to be a part of. But I really do appreciate that I got the opportunity to be a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling for as long as I was, because I never thought it would happen at all in my career, let alone for as long as I got to do it for.
I mean, there's few, I want to say there's really few people in the world that get to the heights that they really set for themselves. Like, I want to get there in any way, shape, or form. I want to get there, and there's not a lot of people that can say that they've done that.
Right, yeah. And so there's still goals that I haven't hit in wrestling, but there are a lot of goals that I hit that I didn't think I would hit in the time that I did. And I remember one of the things that Chaos taught us that really stuck with me because it's something I do notice is, it's that some people aim low and they hit as opposed to aiming high and missing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're aiming high and you're missing, you'll try again. But some people, they hit low and they aim low and they hit and they stay there because they hit. And that's something I did actually kind of notice when I look around sometimes. You notice that, like, oh yeah, they hit what they're content, but they aren't driving themselves to go any higher. And so there are still things that I haven't gotten a chance to do that I'm hoping that I can get there at some point. But I still hit way more than I thought I would in the time that I did, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's, you see that with anything too. It's like you said, like people aim low, they hit it, and they just stay there because, it's like I hit it, and I almost feel like it's maybe not, like maybe it's fear, maybe it's, just a sense of security, like, hey, I actually got here, and it's like, why kind of ruin a good thing? But it's, that's what, to me, that's what separates, just like people from, the extraordinary people. It's like, those are the people that, like, there is no cap. They can just keep climbing and climbing. Like, I hit here, where can I go next?
Yeah, this is like the conversation we literally had like the other day about Michael Jordan and watching.
Yeah, exactly.
And Michael Jordan's like progress and all the things that he did because of the mindset that he had.
Yeah, and not to say that there is anything necessarily wrong with aiming low and hitting it and staying there. It's like, if that's where you're comfortable with, go for it. If that's where you want to be, if that's, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You hit your goal, that's good. But for some people, it's never enough. We always got to keep, climbing those ranks. We got to see where we can go. And even if we do hit a ceiling, we're like, fuck that. Boom. Uppercut right through the wall.
Everyone's got a different definition of success. So
exactly.
As long as you're happy with it, I can't tell you that you're not supposed to be happy. That's what we're all really striving for in this crazy life that we're trying to live, is happiness.
Yes. We're all just trying to find something that makes us happy and maybe some income.
So I'll answer the question then from my Instagram. Why am I so handsome? I was born this way, as Lady Gaga had said. I will just quote Lady Gaga on that and say, I was born this way. And why am I the best potato? Because I bathe in canola oil. So there we go. That answers the questions from my Instagram from a very lovely, lovely potato woman. Darlene Yam.
Oh man. So I do have to ask, like, is there, like, what are some of the big differences between, like, United States wrestling and Japan wrestling that you have to learn, like, on the support side? Like, is there any difference?
Learned, with New Japan specifically, it's treated more like sport. So, for example, for New Japan, you announce a red corner and a blue corner.
Welcome in,
like it's boxing or MMA. Hey, welcome in. So you announce red corner and blue corner like it's a sport. You don't announce their hometown, for example. That's the only place I don't. But you announce the height and the weight. Okay. So it works a little different as far as the presentation goes, as well as for so those are things I don't do everywhere else. I don't usually do a height, for example, and also usually the corners unless you're doing like an MMA or a boxing. And then also like at ringside, I am the legit timekeeper as well. So I actually have a stopwatch. So I've actually done for sure one draw. It was the first match for sure of Lions Break Collision between Clark Connors and Alex Coughlin. That match actually goes to a draw. And I'm actually the one keeping track of when they hit that time. And so for New Japan, because it's treated more like sport, you give the 5 minutes each time. So it's 5 minutes. So if it's a 15-man match, you go, it's like 5 minutes have elapsed, 10 minutes have elapsed. Then it's like 3 minutes remain, 2 minutes remain, 1 minute remains, 30 seconds remain, stuff like that. So that's stuff that you do with New Japan, and I think with a lot of the other Japanese promotions that you don't do anywhere else. Whereas in, the US side, there's a timekeeper, that happens like that. Or like in mixed martial arts, you have a timekeeper who doesn't say anything, but they'll have like the clapper. That's like 10 seconds left in the round or something like that. So that's kind of what separates, at least from my experience in the support role. There's other stuff with like how refereeing is not exactly the same between the two as well.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like what's presented, because some of that information that gets relayed from other sources, but it's not quite the same. So the support roles in that aspect are different. That's what I can say from my experience. You know, other bits I don't have the experience to tell you what else is different, but that's what I can tell you.
Gotcha. Yeah, and you know that the whole like timekeeping thing really makes sense, just because, you know, and I know I've said this a lot, but it's like, you know, when I went to Japan, it's like you really notice it. It's like they are very, very punctual with everything.
Oh, you went to Japan? Tell us all about it. Yeah,
that'll be on a future episode.
That's a big goal of mine that I have yet to hit. Is Japan is a big goal, just getting there for wrestling in one way or another, but just in general traveling more is just another goal that I hope to hit. So like, because I got to go to Arizona, I went to Arizona earlier in the year. Hopefully be back actually later in the year if that gets announced. But hopefully I'll be back in Arizona soon. Been to Vegas, you know. So anywhere else in wrestling that you want to see me, I have a passport. So, hey, WXW in Germany, I can work for you. Have me on for the 24 karat gold tournament. Just saying.
Well, I mean, if you really want to go to Japan, man, I'm going next year. So, I mean, if you could swing it, you're more than welcome. Fine. You're more than welcome, man.
I will hide in your suitcase, and it'll be. And I'm gonna be Samus Aran. I'm gonna be like a morph ball. It's gonna be interesting.
Just don't lay any bombs.
All right, I won't lay any bombs.
Doughboy says, I got a question. How did you feel announcing for the Fallen Angel Mr. Best Moonsault Ever?
That's one of those crazy ones, because I've had dream calls that I got to do. There's 3 people who are like the dream calls in my head, and I've done 2 of them. So Christopher Daniels was one of them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I got to announce Christopher Daniels was pretty cool. And like Christopher Daniels, this is the guy, and I was a huge fan of, and still am. And Donovan, you are a huge fan of. And he's still going strong. He just turned 53 years old, and he's still wrestling, and he still looks like he's 30.
Yeah, he will still whip anyone's ass.
And he can still do the best moonsault ever at 53.
Hell yeah.
And you and me, we saw him win the Ring of Honor World Championship in 2017. That was
an amazing, amazing show. Holy shit.
Such a great show. Christopher Daniels, that was cool, because that was one that I was all like, cool, I can check that off. And it's also interesting because before I got to ring announce him, I got to referee him. Mm-hmm. You know, at that Defy show. That was months earlier, and I was still also crazy, like working with Christopher Daniels on that aspect. And he's very good, very professional, and like it's one of those things. Like I can see why this guy has done it for so long. And why he's so good at it, you know. So it was cool working with him in both of those aspects. And so getting to announce Christopher Daniels is dope. The other 2 on the list, the other one that I did, Hiroshi Tanahashi, which was at the LA Coliseum for Resurgence. So that one's a big one for me, getting to check that one off the list. The one I don't think I will ever check off the list because, well, one, he's retired, unless I get to introduce him for a segment of some sort, which would be cool, which would be Shawn Michaels, who was my favorite wrestler for the longest time. So if I can somehow swing that, Nick Bonanno, if you can somehow, I know Shawn Michaels has a lot of NXT, so if you want to help me out here, no, I can't just like.
I'm surprised. I thought Rocky would have been on there.
No, I did Rocky a bunch.
I mean, like one of like the big names that you would really love to have done.
Rocky was definitely like he's one of my favorites for sure. He wasn't like on my bucket list of doing, and I don't know if it's just because that one felt like because I know Rocky works shows a lot more outside, I felt like it could have been more possible or something. But I love Rocky in general, and when I got to do Rocky, and doing Rocky every time is pretty cool. I think more so than Rocky on his own would be doing him and Trent together.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, but like if they do another reunion, like to be that one, because they've had a couple of Roppongi Vice reunions in the years since, but Rocky though is also a cool one because he was also on my reel for a while, like doing his. So shout out Rocky Romero. There you go. So yeah, those are the ones that were like on the list. Like also another cool one was like doing Booker T at the first improv show we did as part of the current run last year. We got to do Booker T, and that was cool because that's one I didn't realize. Like, oh, I'm introducing Booker T of all people.
Yeah, someone we all grew up with.
Yeah, exactly. I remember specifically, this is something you told me when you came to the Impact show I did. The one that was cool to you that I did was Rhino.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes.
Because Rhino looked exactly the same to you, and he basically is.
Yeah,
he's aged
it
very
was
well.
nuts. Because I didn't even know he was going to be on the show, really. And when he came out, I was just like, holy shit, that's Rhino. I remember watching it when I was like fucking like quarter of my height, and he looks exactly the same. Yep. What is happening to me?
I got to introduce Rhino during that tour. So yeah. So there's a lot of really cool ones that some I never thought about and never, that it would happen. Let's see here. What did a big name win in heavyweights I was hoping? Legion, LA Park. Oh yeah, I did do LA Park that one time.
Mm-hmm. And then
and actually, I have to tell Doughboy. So I did not actually get to announce Cody Rhodes on that one where he was the NWA champion. David Marquez hosted an interview segment. He got to introduce Cody Rhodes. So in actuality, I got to be around Cody, but I actually never got to introduce Cody Rhodes, who could be the WWE World Champion after Sunday. We'll see.
He could be. I just remember that show. I was just like so ecstatic just to see the Crossroads be done live.
Oh yeah, he hit Peter with it.
Yeah, I was just like, oh shit.
Poor Peter. Poor Peter.
We love you, Peter. We love you here.
I love Peter. Peter Avalon is also a guy who's helped me out a lot because Peter Avalon does a lot behind the scenes at Championship and United that people might not necessarily know. And Peter's got a really great wrestling mind, and he's very, but he's very helpful, and if you need TV done, he knows what to do. And Peter's actually a guy who does not get enough credit because he's put in a certain position at AEW that people don't, pay attention to because, he's kind of like, put in a certain light that people don't realize how good Peter Avalon is, both as a wrestler and as a mind in pro wrestling. But shout out Peter Avalon. I love you.
Yeah, man. Peter, I always enjoy the shows that Peter's a part of, even if I do heckle him.
Oh yeah, of course. He shows up and he's an asshole. And you're like, yeah, fuck that guy.
Princess Peter.
Oh, those old days.
Oh god, those were so much fun. But yeah, so I think that was it for the New Japan stuff that I had on the docket.
Okay.
But
moving right along. Shout out to the Muppets.
Oh, okay. You know what, Doughboy? I will save that one for after this next segment, because I do have a segment where we can open it up for like questions and stuff, because we are getting close to the 2-hour mark. I don't want it to run like too long after 2 hours, but if it does run a little bit longer, it's fine. But I don't want to go.
I didn't even realize we've been talking that long,
right?
Oh, man.
So kind of switching gears a little bit. I mean, switching it way out. Up next fighting,
UNF. Yes. What do you want to know about UNF?
So, I guess my biggest question, because I know it's still a sports promotion and everything, but it's two very, very different sides of the coins, especially for anyone involved, because it's like you're going from, talent to like people that are in almost essentially like a blood sport. So it's like, do you have any sort of interaction with the fighters, or is it just kind of like, hey, here's their announcing card, just announce it as it is, you have no interaction with them, nothing like that?
So now we're talking about, so for people who don't know, UNF, Up Next Fighting, is a mixed martial arts promotion that I have been associated with over the last few months, about like 4 or 5, 6 months, something like that. So they're legit mixed martial arts promotion. Mm-hmm. So mixed martial arts and combat sports in general is very different than pro wrestling. So pro wrestling, I don't think this is going to surprise anybody, but it is, to a degree, it is not a real sport. It is a performance. It is what I like to call performance art.
Yes.
What we are doing in pro wrestling is art, and anybody who says it's not art, I think you are crazy. So, what we are doing is putting art on, where UNF, Up Next Fighting, is legit, sport as far as combat sports is concerned. So anyone who's familiar with the UFC, Strikeforce, any of that stuff, just another one of those. UNF, the rising fight game here in SoCal. And so being a part of that, so it's different for sure, because now you're dealing with kind of like there's a locker room camaraderie when it comes to pro wrestling if you're in a good locker room, because everybody's trying their best to put on the best ensemble performance that we can, make the whole show better, all this jazz, because we're all working together. Where MMA is different because it's about your pride as a fighter and all this other jazz. So for me, before I did Up Next Fighting, I had actually done a couple of Muay Thai events for Cali Muay Thai. And I got that through another ring announcer in the Southern California area, Joshua Shibata. Shout out Joshua Shibata for helping me get those opportunities. He's been around a bit longer than me, as far as at least a couple years, 2-3 years longer than me in as a ring announcer, and he also does stunt work and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Handsome Asian man, Joshua Shibata. So thanks for those opportunities. So he got me onto Cali Muay Thai. So for that, for example, you want to attend the weigh-ins when there's something like a combat sport happening, get all the information that you would need, because you need to get an official weight, and then ask for heights and then what gym you represent and all that, and find out what the promoter wants done. Up Next Fighting has made things very easy, or at least not very easy, but easier in that aspect, because they give me a spreadsheet. There's actually a Google Doc they update, and they have a lot of info that I don't need to ask for.
Oh, that's nice.
So I still show up to the weigh-in. I still get some information just in case, for my own sake. But there's stuff that Up Next Fighting has made it a lot easier for me as an announcer, which is very nice. But generally speaking, I don't interact with fighters as much as I do with wrestlers, because they're mostly interacting with their teams and stuff like that. They're training, their coaches and all that jazz. So there's less reason for me to, maybe 1 or 2 times, if I talk to a fighter or they needed to talk to me for something. It's very few and far between that I have to interact with an actual professional fighter. So usually with fighting, I don't interact as much with the combatants, but in wrestling, I tend to interact with everybody at least on a handshake level.
Okay. Yeah. I figured that would probably be the case. It's there's no interaction unless there's a specific need for it. Just because, like you said, it's a combat sport versus entertainment.
Who I'm interacting with more so is the people of the commission. So the fight commission, the amateur fight commission, or the pro fight commission. I need to get information from them and stuff like that more so than I do interact with fighters.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then, how did you get into Up Next Fighting?
So that was I partially got some experience doing the Cali Muay Thai stuff, so I did a couple of those thanks to Joshua Shibata. So that was kind of my introduction into doing combat sport. Mm-hmm. So how that happened is that Up Next Fighting is also partially what's the word, parented by or something like that, another arm of Bash Boxing. So Steve Bash is a guy who has worked a lot with Dave Marquez, the guy who owns the United Wrestling Network, as business partners and stuff like that. So they've worked a lot on wrestling and combat sports stuff and produced a lot of wrestling television and boxing television and fight television. So a lot of combat sports television, Dave Marquez and Steve Bash have done together. So Steve Bash knows me from the stuff that I do with Dave Marquez and Championship Wrestling and the United Wrestling Network. He was looking to replace his ring announcer for Up Next Fighting. And basically, so he asked me, he's like, hey, would you be interested in trying MMA? We'll put you on this Rising Stars show, kind of as an audition, basically. It was a paid audition. It's yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot. So the first event I did was the Rising Stars of UNF show that they did, which was all amateur fights. Mm-hmm. But, I got to see how it was all put together. And they put all that content out for their YouTube channel, so you can see it Up Next Fighting, all those fights that I was a part of. And so that was kind of it. And then I was asked to do officially, I think, Up Next 4. And so I did Up Next 4, Up Next 5, and we just did Up Next 6. So that just kind of spun from there. It was just so they liked me and they wanted to use me for those particular events that they had. So that's kind of what happened, is that it was a connection that I made through wrestling that got me the opportunity in mixed martial arts.
Oh, nice. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I know
it's once again the old adage of it's not what you know, it's who you know. And
that's
kind of part of that, dude. Yeah, so
definitely. I feel like that's becoming more and more apparent as the years go on now.
Especially as you get older, yep.
Oh God, yeah. Jesus. So, feel free, answer this if you're comfortable with it. If not, it's perfectly fine. But, as far as, getting compensated for your services, paid for it, does MMA or does wrestling actually pay you better for your services?
Generally speaking, most of the time, because there's not a whole lot of money in independent wrestling. I get paid pretty well for doing championship wrestling these days. That was not always the case starting out, as we were, but like I was never not paid by championship wrestling. Dave Marquez always made sure I was paid, whether it was a lot or like whether it was like however much it was, but like lately, now I get paid pretty well to do championship wrestling. But just in general, like independent wrestling doesn't pay a whole lot, but it's, not necessarily about that sometimes. But then as you get experience, then you can get your rate and kind of get what you want out of it. So, yeah. But generally speaking, like mixed martial arts just pays higher, and that's just a general thing. Like fighters in the fight game, just because of how popular fighting is as a sport.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So generally speaking, I would say mixed martial arts is better pay, and most people would probably tell you the same because there's people who have done both. Filthy Tom might be able. I don't know what Filthy Tom does as far as I've never asked him as far as like how much he got paid as a UFC fighter versus how much he gets paid as a wrestler. But it's also not my business. But like from what I can experience from like generally, yeah, it seems to be mixed martial arts.
Okay. Yeah, because I just wasn't sure, just because it's like I know in like the wrestling world, it's like, even if you are a support role, it's like you are part of the show. It's like you kind of you can kind of pump the crowd up, you do think you're a little bit more active as far as like the operations of the show goes. Whereas like with, combat sports and stuff, it's like you have your role, that's what you stick to. You go in, you do your job, you're out, essentially. There is,
because wrestling still comes from the old like circus days, because wrestling used to be a sideshow.
Yeah.
And so there's still some carny ass promoters that exist in pro wrestling where guys don't get paid. Like a promoter will just win. There's stuff that's I've been a part of where I've seen like a whole show just get canceled and a promoter just takes all these people's money.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's happened. And they're the guys who were booked on the show now no longer have a booking, and stuff like that, so they just wasted their time not taking another booking for the show that didn't happen, for example. So that happens a lot, not a lot, but that happens from time to time in pro wrestling where, that's why like sometimes getting your pay is a pain in the ass in pro wrestling. I've thankfully not had very many instances of that. I've had instances of that, but basically if you see me still with a promotion, most likely it's because I've never had problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only been like a couple of times I've ever had an issue, but it's not with any place that I've been associated with for any notable amount of time for, so that kind of speaks for itself. So I don't know how often or if it happens in mixed martial arts. So that's not something I've experienced, at least. So that's a question for someone else, but
I feel like
just in general,
tougher.
It could be because there's probably more stuff behind that, but at the same time, who knows, but yeah, just a lot of like carny, as we call it, just carny ass people that exist, in pro wrestling and stuff still, just because it technically was a carny sideshow is how the history of it started. It's a grift, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was definitely a lot of insight for me as far as like, mixed martial arts versus wrestling goes.
Yeah. There's a lot of history that you learn about in pro wrestling as far as like how it exists and stuff like that. And I remember having a conversation with Nathan Fan, who is a notable magician, the Magic Asian Man, and finding out like the terms that we both use that apply to both magic and pro wrestling. And that was also crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
So this is one thing that's actually been on my mind for a while since you've done the wrestling thing, but I know.
All right, I'll take it off. It's fine. I'll do it.
All right, fine. Cool. Awesome. We got him. Yeah. What has actually been your most memorable moment in your career?
That would probably be Resurgence at the LA Coliseum, because it was the biggest show that I did. Because I can't forget, because that was 2,000 plus people and all that. So that one's a huge one. That one's definitely out there. The recent show that United Wrestling Network Championship Wrestling just did in Mesa, Arizona for the Red Carpet Rumble back in January, that's also a huge memorable one for me. We drew like 1,200 plus people or something like that, and we were turning people away for this amazing card that we put on for that. So that one is also pretty good, there's that. We drew a bunch of people. We drew 400 plus fans for like Santino Brothers when we were really starting to get hot, like before the pandemic hit, I remember, and that show was amazing. So there's a lot of really cool things I got to do that like are so many cool highlights. Doing the Impact shows, those 3 Impact shows are a highlight. There's a lot of fun stuff I did with Pro Wrestling when I was there, as far as like being Bob Tabasco or being Drunk Santa or like or being Santa not drunk and winning a match. So I have 1 win as a professional wrestler in a 6-man tag as Santa Claus.
Hell yeah.
I delivered a choke slam to a turkey, and we won, and that's a trip. That's like, so I have 1 confirmed win as a professional wrestler and a lot of losses as a professional wrestler in battle royals. So there's a lot of fun moments that happen to Pro Wrestling, but so there's a lot, doing like the first meet and greet I got to do with like Will Ospreay. That was a trip,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was also a big highlight, as well as a lot of the ones I got to do, especially like the one with Fred Rosser, where we got to do the millions of dollars dance. That always sticks out to me. So there's so many, so it's hard to narrow it down. But I guess I guess also the NWA title matches I got to do too, because that was also crazy to think that I would be doing those matches ever. So yeah, this is just a handful. I could go on and on about stuff that was super memorable, because I feel like I've had such a wonderful career so far. So
yeah, it's one of those things. It's like when you finally get to do something you're passionate about, it's like there is just no one like epic, like most memorable moment that trumps everything. It's like everything is a moment. Everything is a memorable moment when you're doing something you're passionate about.
Right.
It doesn't matter how large, like how big of a scale it is, how small it is, it's just every moment's like gold.
100%. It's what did you say? If you do something you love, you don't work a day in your life. So
exactly.
That helps too. So,
and honestly, man, it's like you and like probably like a handful of people are the only ones I know that can honestly say that they are doing what they love. It doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, it helps for sure. Yeah, being part of a thing that I watched for so long and like being around it has been really cool. Yeah,
man. That's why I'm fucking super proud of you, man. For all the fucking hard work that you've done throughout all the years and shit, all your trials and tribulations. You to be able to like stand in that ring and do what you love, it's fucking inspiring, man. That's honestly why I wanted to have you on the show, because it's like I said before, it's like the whole point of this podcast is a lot of people, I know, even myself included, even with something as small as like cosplay and prop making and 3D modeling and stuff, it's like a lot of people get overwhelmed trying to figure out how to get started, because it's like they could do the research, but then it's just like they second guess themselves. Maybe they're just like, maybe this isn't for me. What if it fails? All this stuff. It's like there are people
you
out
don't
there.
know if you don't try. That's that was part of me also doing the thing that I did as far as like stepping in for the one day trying. It's like, I don't know until I give this a shot. Otherwise I'm going to get to 50 years old and be like, well, I should have tried it when I was 20, when I was 30, when I was 40, and I didn't give it a shot. And so I needed to know what if I could be a pro wrestler, and then I learned I couldn't. But I learned I could still be in pro wrestling, and that was the nice thing. That was great to know,
Yeah. And it's like, like you said, you never know until you try. So just, commit to it. I mean, even for me, for something as simple as like this podcast, like I said, I've been trying to get this started for a year, and every time I was just like, well, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to do? Am I going to be interesting enough, or are my guests going to be interesting enough? Do people going to give a shit? And it's just like, I finally was just like, fuck it. I'm just going to do it. I took a weekend, I made this like really simple overlay and everything, and I finally just did it, gave it a shot. We'll see how it goes. But it's one of those things I've been told since probably high school. It's like, you have a really good like radio podcast announcer voice. I'm like, thank you. I guess.
And you're here with another like radio podcast announcer voice. Exactly. Here, so. I thought of a couple other things that I was just like, because I remembered that time I got to sign, like, there's this girl who would come to championship, this like with her dad, and then she wanted and I started selling 8x10s, and she, I got this picture with her, and I gave her this autograph. She's like super happy about it.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Just like says like meeting fans that really like like for whatever reason, like my work, because it's not, I'm not meant to be someone who's like super followed as compared to a wrestler, but it's also nice when fans like actually are like, oh dude, you're doing great, I like watching you on these shows. I'm like, oh, I appreciate that. Or like, because I remember when I got to do Las Vegas for Jamie Iovine, who people might know as the son of record producer Jimmy Iovine. So Jamie Iovine, because he worked with us championship, because he's a big wrestling guy, he actually booked me for a couple of wrestling shows he ended up doing. One was in Las Vegas for Ante Up, and that one was cool because there was like some fan in Vegas who was like, oh, you're here? I love you. I've seen your stuff. And I'm all like, oh, cool. You're seeing me out in Vegas. That's great. And like, it was like an older woman, and it was cool. And it's like, I also remember just because Jamie Iovine gave me a graphic for that show, and I didn't know, and I was just like, and he picked like this, like my Facebook profile picture at the time, like, Jamie, I could have sent you a picture that would have looked better, but it was still cool getting a graphic for that. But like those are like other things that were cool, was just meeting really friendly people who enjoyed like what I was doing, so that was cool.
I've only ever had one experience like that, like legit experience like that, and that was at a con.
Okay,
I remember that. It was
somebody who liked your prop building or what?
Yeah, someone who like they said that they were following my my boosted gear progress, and when they found out I was going to be at Anime Expo one year, it's like they were literally like roaming the halls looking for me.
That's cool. That's fucking cool.
When they finally found me, they were just like, they were so ecstatic to take a picture with me. They were asking me like tons of questions, and I just remember at the end of it all, they were just like, man, it's like man, I wish I could build stuff like that, and I legit like did the whole like, like anime like sensei to their pupil, put my hand on their shoulder and shit, and I was just like, you can do it. Like honestly, like I told them, I said, like I have not been doing this long. I've only been doing this since 2013, and this has just been from trial and error, putting in the hours in the shop. Like anyone can do it. It's just, you just got to have the drive and the passion and the motivation to do it, even if like. And I told him, like, do you think my first boosted gear looked great? It might look like crap. I go, this has just been from my own experiences and trial and error. I'm like, anyone can do anything that anyone in this hall is doing right now. I go, so don't ever.
Yeah, go on.
I was just probably what you were just about to say. Like, don't let other people get you down. Like, if you love it, just do it. Just try it.
I was gonna say, like, don't let your first one doesn't have to be perfect. Your first one's your first one.
Yeah.
Your first one is what there's no such thing as perfection, but if you're striving for it, you do it 10,000 times, and then after you do it 10,000 times, you do it 10,000 more times.
Yep.
And you get closer and closer and closer because you get better with time. Because I can't go back and watch some of my early championship wrestling from Hollywood moments of like ring announcing because I'm like, oh, I'm so bad. I would not hire me. I'm so like, because compared to like how I ring announce now, because I'm not the same ring announcer I was when I started. That's what it's meant to do. You're meant to figure out how you find your voice, or you find your molding ability, or your crafting ability, or your cooking ability. You hone it.
Yeah.
You go and you make a really bad sandwich before you make the most amazing filet mignon like a year later. So
Exactly. Or weird paste.
Or weird paste. Overcooked, all you can eat edition, available now on Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch. Play it and Steam. Seriously,
we're not sponsored. We're not sponsored. But we love that fucking game.
Hey, Overcooked, please sponsor Over the Edge props, and we will play Overcooked at least once a month.
Oh my god. Oh, that's probably one of my like top 5 gaming moments.
No one's seen it. The problem is it's not like we ever streamed it, so it's just like we're playing Overcooked, and then we just like I accidentally messed up a recipe and put too much yeast or something, and you're like, what do I have here? I have weird paste. I can't serve people weird paste.
Adnan, what do I do? What do you mean? I made weird paste. And we just, for whatever reason, it must have been late night gaming fog, and we were just like dying of laughter for like 10 minutes straight.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, the Modern Warfare 2 one too. That was great.
Oh man, that's like literally we beat that last mission with like 0.01 seconds left on the clock. Like, you did it. I'm watching you. I'm dying. I'm bleeding out, and you're crawling toward the thing, and I'm like, you can do it. And we did it.
We finally never had to touch Spec Ops ever again.
And that was the last time Call of Duty was good to me.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh man.
So gonna be wrapping up here, but I know Doughboy had one more question. I don't know if he's still in the chat here.
It was something about Mount Rushmore, right?
So,
Okay, yeah. My Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. So if I was to have my Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers, it would be, the top three in there would be definitely like Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. It would be Hiroshi Tanahashi, the ace of New Japan Pro Wrestling. It would be Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels. So now I have to think about the fourth one because that's hard because it's like I usually think about those as my top three. And so there's a lot of guys, that it could be, so it's hard to name who could be that other person on my list. So I'm just gonna put, let's see here. Who should go on there? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put, I'm gonna put, because it could change, but I'm gonna put Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. because he's one of the most incredible technical wrestler. He's the most incredible technical wrestler I've ever seen, and I always try to watch a Zack Sabre Jr. match. So he's actually a guy I'd love to introduce one day, just because I love watching him work. It's always crazy to watch a Zack Sabre Jr. match, as far as like when it comes to how traditional wrestling is involved, as far as like grappling and holds and stuff like that. That guy has so many ridiculous holds and so many incredible ways of putting them together. It's so crazy to see, that. And I have not seen a bad Zack Sabre Jr. match, so I'm gonna go with Zack Sabre Jr.
Nice.
Someone's got Yano in there.
Yeah.
That's Beauty, but I know who that is. Okay, I think that because that's gotta be my girlfriend. If it is, because because she never knew wrestling before me, and I introduced her to Toru Yano, one of the greatest comedy wrestlers of all time. And she's like, and Toru Yano is like the only wrestler that she knows the name of now. is because he's hilarious. I think you've seen some Toru Yano matches, right?
I think so. I think you've shown me some.
Toru Yano versus Zack Sabre Jr. matches that have happened from time to time. Those are amazing matches. Watching this technical god wrestle this comedy wrestler and like have these amazingly really cool matches, because Yano is actually secretly like a really great wrestler, which is what makes you a really great comedy wrestler, which is what I don't think people don't understand, because there's all these types of wrestling. There's lucha libre, there's technical, there's high flying, there's, brawling, and there's hardcore wrestling, but like, styles make wrestling, and there's comedy wrestling. And I don't think people understand, like, to be a good comedy wrestler, you first have to be a good wrestler.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and I love comedy wrestling. That's why I like being a part of Wrestling Pro Wrestling, and I just like whenever stuff is funny, like with DDT that exists, Dramatic Dream Team, that promotion. Mm-hmm. Like, it's the stuff that like really stands out. It's like, or like, moments in wrestling that are funny. Those are the moments that stick out to us too, and that are entertaining. Wrestling isn't all about the stuff that happens between the ropes. It's a big part of it, but there's so much more that happens outside of what happens in the ring. I also like, it's going back to Peter Avalon. There's a moment from an interview he did with Chris Van Vliet, which I think is a great philosophy that matches very close to mine. I can send you the clip. It's after this, but it's Pete says, like, people will ask, he's like, is wrestling a sport? Or like, there's like, like Peter doesn't treat wrestling like a sport. Otherwise, you treat it like it's UFC or something like that. What Peter basically thinks of what wrestling is it's the Muppet Show. It's the show within the show. So when you're watching the Muppet Show, you watch the Muppet Show very differently than you would watch a UFC fight. Because he's like, if you're telling me wrestling's a sport, then I only tune in for the main event. Like, maybe it's on and I'm watching the stuff before, and it's like, oh, that's cool. Like a UFC fight, people are watching for the main event. Where the Muppet Show, I am entertained all throughout because of what these characters are doing, what these characters are doing, what's happening backstage, and what's happening on stage type stuff. So I just knocked my microphone. But like, that's what pro wrestling is pro wrestling is the Muppet Show, because the stories that happen outside around the match also matter on top of what matters in the match too. So I like that philosophy that pro wrestling is. That's a really good way of putting it. It's a really good philosophy too. Mm-hmm.
Like, I know I'm not as big of a wrestling fan as a lot of people, but I would have to say on my Mount Rushmore, I'd have to put, Undertaker on there. I'd have to put Mick Foley on there.
Oh yeah.
Christopher Daniels. And then Jay Briscoe. I always enjoyed watching Jay Briscoe fucking wrestle, man. And when the news came of his passing, I remember I messaged you and I was like, is this, like, please tell me this is fake.
And unfortunately it was not, but
I
you know, that's part of, you know, Jay Briscoe is a great talent. The thing about Mount Rushmore conversation, you can go on and on because there's no definitive one answer. There's so many fantastic wrestlers. You know, it's, you know, Jay Briscoe gave us both a lot of great memories, especially watching Ring of Honor and all the great feuds he had. And I think it's cool that we're having the Reach for the Sky ladder match at Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor on Friday, a show I'm not involved with, but I know a couple people on the show, so they're doing that with 5 tag teams to crown new Ring of Honor tag team champions. And also Mark Briscoe will be challenging Samoa Joe for the Ring of Honor television championship. So that'll be really cool to see. And it's great to see Mark Briscoe on people's televisions now.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, and Mark Briscoe said, you know, he's like, I'm going to carry on for, you know, I'm carrying on for Jay. I'm carrying on. We can, you know, so it's like Jay's gone physically, but he's still with me here. So it's like, you know, so that's good for that. You know, Mark Briscoe's carrying on the Briscoe name, and I'm sure they'll kill it at Supercard of Honor. But yeah, definitely, like, Jay Briscoe's a dude who I never got to meet, but he gave me a lot of great memories as a wrestling fan. Or rather, I never got to work with, rather. I met Jay Briscoe as a fan. I met the Briscoes as a fan. Yeah, we both did, and they're great dudes.
They were so fucking cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I scratch that. I did meet Jay Briscoe. I'm happy I got to meet Jay Briscoe. I'm sad I never got to work with Jay Briscoe, but who knows? Maybe one day I can work with Mark Briscoe, and that'd be really cool. So
I just wish I wasn't such an awkward dumbass when I met them.
Hey, you know, you never know what you're going to do in those moments. Like, hey, you got that picture with the Briscoes. So
I got the picture with them.
And the shirt.
I have the signed shirt, and I have a signed picture from them.
There you go. I have a signed picture from them, too.
Yeah. I was just like, dude, like, these never, like, I will eventually get those framed. I will eventually get, like, a shadow box and get those framed.
There you go.
But, yeah, man, I was like, that's definitely mine. Because, like, Undertaker, Mick Foley, I mean, they always... great matches, and especially that one Hell in a Cell match that they did where
that's
Foley
a match that
died.
people that don't know wrestling know that Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah,
that's how big that match was.
Oh yeah. And then, like,
I'm also partially glad that stuff like that doesn't necessarily happen as often as it used to, you know, because it's more like, you know, it's like, yeah, it was cool in the moment, but I you know, wrestling, like, now what we know about, like, CTE and concussions and stuff like that, like, you know, I want to see guys make a living, not necessarily trying to kill themselves as much as they used to, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, not that, like, there isn't a time and place for some hardcore stuff here and there, but, like, I'm kind of like
even Buddy knows that match.
Yeah, there you go. I remember I watched, we were doing a ladder match at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. It was Royce Isaacs and Andy Brown for the Hollywood Heritage title. And I watched them absolutely beat the ever-loving shit out of each other with this ladder. And I'm watching that from ringside, and I'm friends with both of those guys since. And I'm like, I don't like watching my friends kill themselves. I know they're doing it for their art. And at the same time, I'm like, I'm still, part of me is all like, you don't have to do this, guy.
You're right.
But also you do, yeah. But it's just like,
it's just like, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line?
Yeah. And it's not like the most extreme thing I ever saw, but there's just some moments where I'm like, and I'm there. And then I can see them backstage after and see, like, how are you walking around at all gingerly? That's how. So. Shout out to Royce Isaac. Shout out to Andy Brown.
Hell yeah. Let's see. So Mount Rushmore. Oh, going back to our gaming talk. So when
what's up?
Doughboy was saying when we all played Halo Reach and he killed that emu alien bird and you got super pissed.
Why? Let him live, man.
I honestly think on my old 360 I still have the clip of someone killing you with a plasma grenade by gently placing it on your head as you're going for the ghost.
It's always the funniest thing in Halo is with the plasma grenades when just, like, mayhem happens, whether it happens on purpose or not. Especially if it's like, oh man, like you just mess stuff up.
Oh yeah. And then, a more recent one for me was I was playing Phasmo with Bunny, our friend Rosie, and I think our friend Zart as well. And it was the first time we had played the game since, like, one of the updates. And, you know, one of the cursed items is the tarot cards. and you know
Okay.
they all have like different effects on them. And one of them is a revive. So if you die and they happen to draw the card in the deck, you get revived like at your body. So I'm walking around as a ghost, and all of a sudden there's just this bright light, and all of a sudden like I'm up again, and I'm crouched in the middle of like a dark living room, and I look over at the door. There's just 3 dark silhouettes. I'm like, I'm out.
Walk toward the light.
Yeah, it was fucking terrifying because it just came out of nowhere and I didn't know what was happening. I'm like, did my computer just explode?
It's just funny to mention like tarot cards because my girlfriend's gotten super into tarot recently, so it's just kind of funny to think about.
She should talk to Bunny. She's
okay.
She
One day
loves
they'll
doing
get
that.
to. One day they'll get to meet, and then they can talk about it.
Yes.
Speaking of gaming, I'd just like to mention what a great year 2023 has been for brand new games. I mean, Dead Space came out this year, Metroid Prime came out this year, Resident Evil 4 came out this year. What a great year for great brand new video games.
Brand fucking new.
I know, right? That was like a thing I saw, and I'm like, oh, that's crazy. We're just getting games. We just keep playing the same things over and over again. It's never going to stop.
I know, but it's, you know, because not to get too much into it, but you know, like the whole Callisto Protocol thing, super hyped game.
Oh,
everyone was like,
yeah,
super...
I heard it was a big letdown.
It was like I watched a YouTuber I follow play through it, and even I was just like, wow, this is the game. Like, this is kind of like not as hyped as it should have been.
See, I wasn't like hyped on it. I didn't know about it till it came out, but I think from what I heard, right, it's like the first 2 or 3 hours are great, and then it just goes downhill from there, I think is what I heard.
Yeah, because it's like it definitely still kind of captures the kind of like the helplessness that you feel when you first play Dead Space for the first time. You're like, what the fuck is going on? What am I doing? How do I do anything? You know, and then all of a sudden it's like, it just kind of becomes a rinse, wash, repeat thing. It's like dodge, melee, dodge, melee, dodge, shoot, melee. You know, kind of, it's a very repetitive kind of game. And it's like, not to say that Dead Space also can't be that way, but there's more ways to play the game. Because I think with Callisto Protocol, it was like, you had your base gun, you can upgrade it like a bunch of different ways, but the game was so short, it was like, you couldn't really upgrade everything like you could in Dead Space. And
yeah,
Dead Space was just, you know, that was, I even remember the first time I played through Dead Space, it was like, I kind of had the same kind of feeling I did when I played BioShock for the first time and the major reveal came out. I had that same kind of feeling towards the end of Dead Space.
The big twist?
Yeah.
In BioShock? Okay, yeah.
And just in case on the off chance there's someone in this chat or someone happens to watch this that hasn't played BioShock, first off, what are you doing with your life?
Would you kindly pause or fast forward the VOD or something like that?
Yeah.
Would you kindly?
But it's just, you know, it's stuff like that. It's like, I feel like a lot of the newer games that are coming out as of lately, they're trying to recapture that spark that the classics already did, and they're falling short of fully delivering it. That's why a lot more remakes are coming out, because they're like, we know people are going to play this game. We already know the formula for success. We just have to update it. That's it.
There's a lot I could talk about this subject on a whole nother podcast. So if you're just video game, if you want to have another full just a video game discussion, I can do that too.
Hell yeah!
And like it's just like just talking about like, you know, remakes and stuff, remasters and stuff like that. Like there's pros and there's cons to it that I could go on forever and ever, because at first I was like, oh, this is great, yeah. I will say, if we're like just to touch on gaming for real quick, it's just that I have impulse bought and I already own a Switch. I've impulse bought the Tears of the Kingdom OLED Switch today because I'm a crazy person. So I have a second Switch coming. So Tears of the Kingdom's coming out, and I would say the coolest thing I've played recently, well, one was Persona 5 because I was obsessed with it. Persona 5 Royal. I was obsessed with it for like the 4 months I played through that. Great game. So, and it's on all the systems now. So Persona 5 Royal, if you're looking for a great JRPG that'll take way too many hours out of your life, I highly suggest Persona 5 Royal. It's the definitive version of Persona 5 to play, and it's on basically every modern platform and some of the last gen platforms. So I would suggest playing that. And then also Hi-Fi Rush, which dropped.
I've heard that's great.
Couple months ago on Game Pass. It was a shadow drop, just like Metroid Prime Remaster, also a shadow drop.
Yep.
Where they just announced it, dropped it on the same day, and that game was very good, and I think it's a front runner because, like, let's currently, like, because I don't play a whole lot of new games right now, but that's one of the best games I've played in a long while as far as like original titles. Is a kind of like an action game with rhythm elements to it and a great soundtrack and all that. So Hi-Fi Rush, if you're an Xbox Series S or X user, it is a reason to have Game Pass, absolutely, and definitely a great reason to have the system. And if you're a PC player with a very good PC, it's also worth playing because it's on Xbox and PC. Because I think Xbox needed a game like that for a while because they haven't had a big heavy hitters so far this generation like Sony has, but Game Pass has been a great piece of value, and I think Hi-Fi Rush is 100% worth playing if you haven't given it a shot, if you have the means to, either as on an Xbox or on PC.
Oh man, yeah. I think the only games that I've really been playing have been on my VR set. I've been playing a lot of Blade and Sorcery. I've been playing a game that I love the name of it, and there's really not a whole lot to the game, but it's just a lot of fun because there's a lot of mods for it. It's called Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades.
It's a great title. I don't know what the hell it is, and I'm already interested because of the title.
It's basically just a firing range simulator. So it's like you
gotcha.
can like get different guns and stuff like that, but it's like you put on the attachments, you actually load like magazines and stuff, grenade launchers and stuff, but you can also mod the game too to get like different weapons. So it's like of course, being the Alien fan I am, I have the M41A pulse rifle in there, and it sounds authentic. You actually load the magazine, you charge the handle and everything, but it's like there's firing ranges, there's like wave defense, there's even like it's almost like a roguelike element to it. So it's like, you go into a facility, you can find like boxes that can give you like different guns or different attachments to use through it. And you just like kind of progress, hold points. But all of the enemies are hot dog wieners. That's it. Right. That's the only enemy in the game are hot dog wieners.
That's kind of funny. Well, yeah, I think we should definitely like set aside some time and talk all about video games at some point.
Yeah.
And I think more importantly, the next time we talk should be exclusively about Street Fighter 1994, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia, the greatest film on planet Earth since Super Mario Brothers 1991 with Bob Hoskins. I don't remember when Mario.
That son of a bitch Bison's ass.
Son of a, with his authentic American accent, that guy out there.
Oh my god.
Super Mario Brothers is coming out literally in like a week and a half, and that's crazy to me. In like days at this point, like a week actually.
Yeah,
I don't remember. Anyway, that's also another conversation for another time. So, and then I know at some point you wanted to talk to me about Super Nintendo World on one of these. So
I was gonna talk about it here, but I think we're kind of running a little over time right now. So
let's save it for next time.
Yeah, we'll save it for next time when we do the gaming one and like maybe some travel stuff and everything too. Because I would definitely love to talk to you about that because I know how big of a Mario fan you are, and I know you were chomping at the bit to get through that warp pipe.
Oh, bro, that's a whole nother podcast. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yes. So, as we said, we've got a couple of upcoming shows where you can see the handsome voice himself.
Okay, so this Thursday, don't forget, first show up at the GCW Collective at the Ukrainian Culture Center in Los Angeles, California. Santino Brothers Wrestling presents California Love. Jake Cabrera, Willie Mack, Santino Brothers title, Delilah Doom, Johnny Robbie, Heather Monroe, Santino Brothers Intercity Championship, Tyler Bateman Wrestling, Bad Dude Tito Wrestling, Kodo Hero Wrestling, so many others on that card. The DKC is back with us for that show as well. California Love. Get your tickets, SantinoBrothers.net. Or watch it on Fight Plus if you can't be there live. So that's this Thursday, part of WrestleMania week, because WrestleMania is here in California, baby. And then 2 weeks from today, April 11th, join us at the Irvine Improv at the Irvine Spectrum for another fantastic taping of Championship Wrestling action, where the Golden Boy, Jordan Clearwater, will fight his former friend and Embassy teammate, Invictus Cash, winner of the 2023 Red Carpet Rumble. The United Heritage Championship on the line. BHK Kevin Martinson defends against Final Destination's Charles R3 Cassis, as well as United World Champion Danny Limelight defends against UFC great Filthy Tom Lawler in our main event, plus so much more, including United Tag Team Champions TMDK, Bad Dude Tito, and Shane Haste, as well as United Television Champion Jack Banding, so much more. If you want to follow me on the social media, you can follow me on both Twitter and Instagram at @the-Adnan, TheDashingAdnan, Adnan. And if you've seen it pop up in the chat, Adnan.threadless.com to get your Handsome Voice merchandise needs. Get yourself an Adnan Strong t-shirt. Get yourself a Adnan Taraj t-shirt. Get yourself a Kureishy Groans t-shirt. And I think that's about it. And don't forget to, if you want, you can check out my reels, my ring announcing reel at the One For You show on YouTube. ONE, the number 4 letter U show on YouTube. And if you want to book me for ring announcing needs or as a voice actor, I have this little setup here. I can provide some stuff for voice acting or for some voiceover needs. Please feel free to hit me up. My public booking email is bookhandsomevoice@gmail.com.
Love it. Well,
that was a lot of plugs.
Yes, it was. But all the same, love you, brother. I'm always happy to support you and give you a shout out and everything.
Thank you for having me here. I hope that the first episode of Beyond the Shop was terrible, and I hope no one watches this after New Year.
Thank you. I love you too.
100%.
But yes, if anyone has any final questions for Adnan, please drop them here, and I will ask him on Twitter to answer your questions. We are going to start wrapping up here in a moment. So everyone say goodbye to Adnan until the next time that we have him on to talk about, Nintendo World and, all of the fun video game stuff
and Street Fighter 94
and Street Fighter 94. You can't forget the classics. You can't forget the classics. But yes, I hope, again, man, thank you so much for being my debut guest on here. I hope you had a good time, and I hope you out there learned something interesting, and maybe it gave you the spark to actually chase what you know and what you love.
Remember, you don't know if you can do it until you try, so give it a shot. I'm living proof that,
porn.
If you want to make, in porn, and some people, that actually might be a thing. So literally, you won't know until you try.
We don't shame here.
Onlyfans.com has been quite the income giver for a lot of people, so that's your place to give it a shot, I guess. I don't know, but if you have
the
a
Handsome
dream,
Voice, you can follow him on OnlyFans. I'm just kidding. That's not a real plug.
No, but someone's gonna take that now and then put just pictures of my teeth or something.
The handsome dong. Yes.
The handsome dong. But give it a shot. You don't know if what you can do until you try it for yourself. So that's the best advice I can give you. Support independent professional wrestling. They're WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact. They're all great. New Japan's great, but do support your local guys, because you never know that sometimes at your local professional wrestling show you could be seeing the next big star in pro wrestling, and that's a fact. And they don't get to where they are without your support. So I would say support independent professional wrestling.
Exactly. Well, brother, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to do my sign off, and then I will chat with you. I'll chat with you soon, brother.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you again for having me. I hope this goes well.
Thank you for coming on, man. You have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
All right, folks. So that was our very first episode of Beyond the Shop. And I hope, as I said before, that you guys actually, you learned something. Hope it entertained you. And I hope you actually took something away from this, because, as I said before, it can be very overwhelming trying to chase your dreams, but it is possible. And I know many, many people in my life that have actually chased their dreams and actually have achieved something of it. It is a possibility. You just got to have the drive and the motivation to do it. So I hope that this series will be beneficial to you, even if it's just entertainment or just background noise as you're doing something. I hope that this is a good experience for you. It's a great experience for me. I think it's a great way for me to highlight some very important people in my life, sharing what they do and what they love, and trials and tribulations and how they actually got to where they are. Now, I will be live again tomorrow for Waifu Wednesday at 8 o'clock, so be sure to come here and watch me struggle and be smooth brain as I probably try to do puzzles and stuff, and be sure to drop in your picks for the mirror match. And then also next month I will probably be doing my next episode of this with a guest. I've already asked them. They've already agreed. We just have to set a date. I'm going to have Bunny on, and she's going to talk to you guys about, digital art, how she got her start, doing the convention scene and all that different kind of stuff. And I know that is a profession that a lot of people would love to get into, but maybe not necessarily know where to get their start. So I think it'd be nice to have her come on and share her experiences with all of you. And I do plan to do a lot of solo episodes in the future, and we will be seeing the handsome voice once more, at least once more, for some gaming and theme park talk. So I hope you guys have a great night. Again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for stopping by. It means the world to me that you guys are here. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow, and I'll see you guys in the next one.